Ladies and gentlemen, and slug-like life forms that will soon be allowed to vote, I'm fucking sure if anybody on this goddamn stage gets their way. Folks, welcome to Streaming for Vengeance. We are going to move right on to the debate, so hold on, I'm going to unmute this fucking thing against my better judgment.
And two, when the
Here we go.
Congress was debating whether or not
how the hell are you folks?
invade Iraq. I got up on the floor of the House and I said,
Oh boy,
that would
we're
be
gonna strut our fucking democratic bona fides on resisting Iraq.
the region.
Which,
And I
in his
not only
defense,
voted
Bernie was one of the
against
few
war, I
who
helped
opposed,
lead the
but
effort against that war. Just
given some of the
last year,
conflicts he supported in the
I helped
interim, I
for
think
the
it might
first
just be
time in the
because
modern
it wasn't on a
history
grand
of
enough
this
scale for him.
pass a War Powers Act resolution working with a conservative Republican, Mike Lee of Utah, which said that the
Utah,
war
that is not a point
led by
in
Saudi
any
Arabia
Republican's favor.
was unconstitutional because Congress had not authorized it. We got a majority vote in the Senate. We got a majority vote in the House. Unfortunately, Bush vetoed that, and that horrific war continues. I am able to work with
Here we
Republicans.
go.
I am able to bring people together.
Turn it up a
to
bit.
Try to create
Yeah,
a
that's not
world where
happening.
We solve conflicts over the negotiating table, not through military.
Vice President
Now, let
Biden,
me get
you talked
copyright
about
struck
your
real quick.
experience,
I'll
but
go ahead and
some
turn it all the way
senators
up for you
have
motherfuckers.
taken issue with that experience, questioning your judgment in voting to authorize the Iraq war. Why are you the best prepared person on this stage to be commander-in-chief?
I said 13 years ago it was a mistake to give the president the...
First off, I'd like to point out the irony. I apologize for cutting off Biden here, but we opened with an impassioned speech, I don't know if you guys saw it, from Tom Perez, the chairperson of the DNC, and he gave this impassioned speech about the youthful vigor of the fucking Democratic Party. So who do we open with? Wolf Blitzer, an aging Bolshevik, throws it to Bernie, an aging Bolshevik, throws it to fucking Biden, who's about to crumble into dust. Here's a progressive, forward-thinking day. As your top three candidates have a combined age of over 200. There's your fucking... Fucking Biden is so old, his blood type is discontinued. Warren's last period was the Mesozoic, and Bernie still has hearing loss from the fucking Big Bang, folks. How fucking young is the Democratic Party right now? About as young as their ideas. Their fucking over 200-year-old Bolshevik bullshit ideas.
But I think my record overall...
Just the youthful, subversive vigor Green Day have been beating us all over the head with since 2004 or so. Oh, what's that? Green Day are a bunch of leathery Leninist fucking boomers now? Yeah, no wonder you're all socialist when you can give a first-hand account of how Marx was fucking conceived.
Afghanistan was also a mistake. So you both acknowledged mistakes. Why should the American people trust your judgment more?
Well, it's a little bit of a difference. On that particular vote, every single member of the House, including myself, voted for it. Only Barbara Lee voted against it. But what I understood from right away in terms of the war in Iraq, the difference here is that the war in Iraq turned out to be the worst
I love when he does the
foreign
karate
policy
sounds. I'm not going to
in the
lie.
history of this country. As Joe well knows, we lost 4,500 brave troops. Hundreds of thousands of Iraqis died. We have spent trillions of dollars on that endless war.
You know they drafted this whole line of questioning about a new Iraq war when we all thought World War III was going to happen for 15 fucking minutes. And by the way, to all the jackasses who jumped in my fucking comments section and said, this video's aged well in my fucking Iran video.
I took time I did everything I could to prevent that war.
Oh, suck it, bitch.
Vice President Biden.
What a difference fucking 24 hours makes, fagaloon. Oh, that stings, don't it?
They weren't going to go to war. They said they were not going to go to war. They said they were just going to get inspectors in. The world, in fact, voted to send inspectors in, and they still went to war. From that point on, I was in the position of making the case that it was a big, big mistake. And from that point on, I voted to...
It was a big, big mistake, like my 13th pair of dentures.
Senator Klobuchar, you publicly questioned Mayor Buttigieg's experience when it comes to being commander-in-chief Why is your
Oh, Buttigieg! Here we go.
more valuable
It's
than
howdy
his time
doody
as a U.S. naval
time.
intelligence officer
Doody
in
doody
Afghanistan and
doody
Israel?
time.
Thank you, Wolf. And
Oh,
I
no,
think
it's
I said that I
Klobuchar.
respect,
Aw.
the mayor's experience very much in the military.
Amy
I just have different
Charizard.
experience. I've been in the
Charizard,
US
no
Senate
one
for
chooses
over 12
you.
years. And I think what you want in a president is someone who has
I think
dealt,
I'd actually
with
appreciate
these
it more
life
if she
and
did
death
like a
issues
fucking
and
flame
who has
attack or
made
whatever.
Decisions. I will look at my position on the Iraq War first.
Look
I
at her.
wasn't in the Senate. for
Even
that
she knows her
vote, but I
campaign is going
opposed
nowhere.
that
Although
war
she did
from
somehow
the very
manage to
beginning.
poll at like
In my
5 or
first
6%
campaign for Senate,
recently, and
ran
I was like,
against a
what?
Republican who ran ads against
Was that
me
in her
on it,
fucking
but I stood
hometown?
my ground. When I got to the Senate, I pushed to bring our troops home. Then I have dealt with every issue from Afghanistan to keeping our troops with good health care after what we saw with Walter Reed. and
She
the
is
Department
Meg
of
Griffin.
to improve the situation for our troops in a very big way with their education.
Yeah, she
and
polled
with their
once at
jobs,
5%,
and also,
something like that.
with their health care.
You're
I
right.
think right now what
You're
we
right,
should be
guys.
talking about, though, Wolf, is what is happening right
She
now
sounds nervous
with
in
Donald
every
Trump.
debate. I wonder if she has
Donald
stage fright.
Trump is taking us pell-mell.
I mean, and that's
for
no,
another
in
war.
all the criticisms
We
of
have
the
a very
woman,
important
anyone could have
resolution. We
stage
just found
fright.
out
That's
today
no.
that 4 Republicans are
Politicians
joining
don't
Democrats
necessarily
to
need to be
go
great
to
public
him
speakers.
And say you must have an authorization of military force if you're going to go to war with Iran. That is so important because we have a situation.
Wait, she's Jewish? What
where
kind of
he got
Jewish
us
name is
out of the
Klobuchar?
Iranian
What
nuclear
is?
agreement, something I
That
worked
sounds
on,
like.
for a significant period
I'm not
of
even gonna
time.
pretend I
As
know what that
president,
sounds
I will
like.
get us back
Maybe
into
Russian?
agreement.
I have no
will
idea.
take an oath to protect
Uh-oh,
and defend
Russian
our
conspiracy.
Constitution,
Thank you.
and I will mean it.
Thank you, Senator
my.
Klobuchar.
Oh,
We're
dear.
going to continue talking about who's best prepared to be Commander-in-Chief, Mayor Buttigieg.
Oh boy.
I bring a different perspective. There are
I love
enlisted
watching
people that I served
Buttigieg
with
because I get to
barely old enough to
multitask.
remember
I can
those
watch a
votes
debate
on
and
the
read Mad
authorization
Magazine
after
back
9/11,
issues at the same
on the
fucking
war
time. It's amazing.
in Iraq. And there are people now old enough to
Alfred
enlist
E.
who were not
Buttigieg.
alive for some of those debates. The next president is going to be confronted with national security challenges different in scope and in kind from anything we've seen before. Not just conventional military challenges, not just
Conventional
stateless
military
terrorism,
challenges
but
like getting a lot of
cybersecurity
semen
challenges,
onto a
climate
naval vessel. I mean,
security
he was in the
challenges,
Navy,
foreign
wasn't he?
interference in our
That's
elections.
right. Didn't we
It's
establish
going to
that in the
take a
last
view to the
last
future,
one?
as well as the readiness to learn from the lessons of the past. And for me, those lessons of the past are personal.
Senator Warren,
You know, if you
in our
put all
new
these guys
CNN
side by
Des Moines
side,
Register
it's
poll,
kind of the
almost a
village
third
people
of
a little
your
bit.
supporters say
You
your
got the
ability
Navy
to lead the
guy.
military is
You
more of a
got the
weakness
Native
than a
American.
strength of yours. Why are you best prepared to be Commander-in-Chief?
I believe the principal job of the commander.
She's going to be
is
very
keep
embattled in this
America
debate,
safe.
I predict.
And I think that's
Because
about
Warren's
judgment.
really
I
come
think it
down with a
starts
case
with
of
knowing our
engine
military.
trouble lately.
I sit on the Senate Armed Services
Dropped
Committee.
from
I
like the
work with our
20th
generals, with our
percentile to
military leaders, with our
barely bobbing around
intelligence.
17%
But I also
or
visit
so.
our troops. I visit our troops around the world. I've been
Which is
to
why you stopped hearing
Afghanistan,
from
to
Hillary.
Iraq, to Jordan, to South Korea. I've been to lots of places to talk with our troops.
That's
And I
lovely.
fight for
That's
our troops
lovely.
to make
How
sure
about your
that they get
policy?
their pay, that they get the housing and medical benefits that they've been promised, that they don't get cheated by giant financial institutions. You know, I have 3 brothers.
So that when they
who
give
are in the
something, they
military,
don't
and I know
take it
how much
back
our military
immediately. If only there
family
were a
has
name for that.
sacrificed. But I also know that we have to think about our defense in very different ways. We have to think about cyber. We have to think about climate. We also
have to use
think
lots of
about how we
Tomahawk
spend
missiles.
money. We have a problem with a revolving door in Washington between the defense industry and the Department of Defense and the Pentagon. That is corruption, pure and simple. We need to block that revolving door, and we need to cut our defense budget. We need to depend on all of our tools, diplomatic,
I wonder if
economic,
Bernie's
working
ever going to
with our
sue
allies,
for her
and not
copying
let the
his
defense
entire
industry
platform.
call the
I
shots.
wonder.
Mr.
I
Steiner,
wonder.
you worked in finance for decades
Like if you could
and have
copyright a
never been
platform, this
elected
woman would be so
office.
tied
Why
up in
should voters
copyright
believe
court.
You have the experience or judgment to serve as Commander-in-Chief.
I worked internationally.
Nobody
around
is
the
more
world for
surprised
decades.
that Tom Steyer is
traveled,
here than Tom
I met
Steyer.
with governments, I met with businesses, and I understand how America
Here we go.
interacts with other countries.
Do the Bolshevik
And you
bobblehead,
asked,
folks.
What is the reason that the
Guys,
experience
I'm
really
gonna
counts?
look
And to
really
me,
concerned.
I believe
I'm
that
gonna look.
Senator Warren made a great point. It isn't so much about experience, it's about judgment. If you've been listening to this, what we are hearing is 20 years of mistakes by
He's
the
also
American
kind of doing the
government
36,
in the Middle
24,
East
36
of
thing with his
failure of
hands there.
mistakes. So the real question is,
Paging
judgment,
Dr.
and
Freud.
who had the judgment? It was a state senator from Illinois with no experience named Barack Obama who opposed the war. It is a congresswoman, Barbara Lee, from
Opposed
Oakland,
the,
California,
but he
who
wasn't
stood
even,
up
he
against
hadn't
the
even been
original
elected
vote.
yet.
He was the only person in Congress. So I would
The
say
war
from
happened in
an
2003. He was,
outside
what the fuck?
perspective, looking at this,
I mean, he
and
might
actually
have
dealing with
before
the
he was
problems as they
elected.
are, is what we're looking for now. I agree with Senator Warren. We are spending
And if he really
dramatically
opposed
too
the
much
Iraq
money
war,
on
he had a funny way of
defense.
fucking showing
The
it
money
because
that
he
we're
deepened
spending
it, if
there, we could
anything.
spend in the other parts of the budget, and it's time for someone from the outside to have a strategic view about what we're trying to do and how to do it.
Senator
I
Sanders,
100%,
in the
I
wake
truly
of the Iran
believe,
crisis,
in all
Iran's
seriousness, I
Ayatollah
truly
Khamenei
believe that Tom Steyer is in this race now just to continue running his campaign advertisements. Because if you really analyze Tom Steyer's advertisements, because they run every fucking 15 minutes, good luck watching an episode of fucking Family Guy without getting 9 Tom Steyer advertisements, many of which I'm sure were fucking written by that pinko bullshit merchant Seth MacFarlane anyway, but fucking... If you watch them and really break them down, they're not really about Tom Steyer. They're about Donald Trump, right? If you really break him down. And that's the problem they made in 2016, making the entire campaign about Donald Trump. How did that work out in 2016? In a general election, people will vote for the name they recognize. So the more you make the campaign about your opponent, the more ammunition you're giving to your opponent, and the more you're guaranteeing they're probably going to win. Tom Steyer just hasn't fucking gotten that.
To answer your question, what we need to do.
And
is
Bloomberg,
have
how much
an
money has he sank into this
international
fucking campaign?
coalition.
He's never even been on a
We
fucking
cannot
stage.
keep acting unilaterally. As you know, the nuclear deal with Iran was worked on with a number of our allies. We have got to undo what Trump did.
Ah, Bernie,
Get that
advocating
coalition
income
together
equality,
and
one
make sure
failed minimum
that
wage
Iran
increase at a
never
time.
gets a nuclear weapon.
Vice President Biden.
I was
Yes,
part
sir.
of that deal to get the nuclear agreement with Iran, bringing together the rest of the world, including some of the folks who aren't friendly.
You
to
know,
us.
me and the Kaiser worked really close together.
It was working.
Every debate, you notice
No
Biden finds a way to
movement
just
on
carbon
the
date
part of
himself.
the Iranian
You know, this reminds me of the advent of indoor electricity. Yeah.
He went ahead-
Graham Bell told me it couldn't be done, but me and the Czar convinced him otherwise, by gum.
We're now isolated.
Who writes your fucking
Situation where
references,
our
Joy
allies in
Behar?
Europe are making a comparison between the United States and Iran, saying both ought to stand down, making a moral equivalence. We have lost our standing in the region. We have lost the support of our allies. The next president
There are
has to
not
be
6
able
now.
to
There's a
pull
lot
those
more,
folks
but
back
they
together,
basically,
reestablish
because
our
there were so many
alliances,
people on
and
stage, they
insist
decided
that
to make the
Iran
criteria
go
for
back
making
into
the stage
agreement,
even more
which I believe with
strict.
the pressure applied as we put on before, we can
The
get
Iran
there.
deal was
Just to be
essentially
clear,
blackmail. You're
Vice
absolutely
President Biden,
correct.
Would you leave troops in the Middle East or would you pull them out?
I would leave troops in the Middle East in terms of patrolling the Gulf, where we have to. Where we
Oh,
are,
God.
small numbers
Just
of
saying
troops.
the
And I think
words,
it's a
leave
mistake
troops in
to
the Middle
pull out
East,
the
you just
small
lost half the
number of
country,
troops
if not
that are
more.
there now
What the
to
fuck?
deal with ISIS. What's
I
happened
would
is
leave my
now that
dentures
he's
on the
gone
bedside.
ahead, the president, and started this whole process moving. What's happening? ISIS is going to reconstitute itself. We're in a position where we have to pull our forces out. Americans have to leave the entire region. And quite frankly, I think he's flat out lied about saying the reason he went after, the reason he made the strike was because our embassies were about to be bombed.
Senator
Look,
Klobuchar,
he,
what's
looks,
your response?
he always looks like he's witnessing an
I would leave
eclipse.
some
It
troops
just,
there, but not in the level that Donald Trump is taking us.
like I
right
said
now.
in a previous video, he's like the
Afghanistan, I have
Patrick
long wanted to bring
Warburton
our troops home. I would do that.
of fucking
Some would
politics.
remain for counterterrorism and training. In Syria,
Why
I
are
would
we
not
talking to
have
this broad?
removed the 150 troops from
The only way she's
border
getting to the
with
White
Turkey.
House
I
is if
think
she
that was a
drives there.
mistake. I think it made our allies and many others
She
much
takes
more
a fucking
vulnerable to
tour.
ISIS. And then when it comes to Iraq, right now, I would leave our troops there, despite the mess that has been created by Donald Trump. At the briefing we had last week, I was the only person on this stage that asked a question.
The World
Both
War
the
III that
Secretary
you
of
said was
Defense
going to happen
the
and didn't?
Secretary
You
of
mean
State.
that mess?
And I asked them about imminent
Holy
threat,
shit.
but I also asked them what their alternatives were. And they gave very vague answers. I asked them, where is the surge
Remind
of
me who met with
diplomacy
Iran
that we
without
would be seeing
preconditions?
if I was president. And I asked them where they were going to leave the Iraqi people.
And now just look at Iran. They've stated publicly they're going to stop pretending to follow the Iran agreement.
I would put our country's interests first as Commander-in-Chief.
Senator Warren, leave combat
Shut up,
troops,
Meg.
at least some combat troops in the Middle East, or bring them home.
No, I
Oh
think we
my.
need to get our combat troops out. You know, we have to stop.
Hey, what's the
this
smoke
mindset
signal
that
for
we can
fucking
do everything
insane?
With combat troops, our military is the finest military on earth, and they will take any sacrifice we ask them to take.
Even human
But we should
sacrifice atop an
stop asking
Aztec
our
altar.
military to solve problems that cannot be solved militarily. Our keeping combat troops there is not helping. We need to work with our allies. We need to use our economic tools. We need to use our diplomatic tools. Now, look, I understand. There are people on this
Are we
stage
not
when
going
it
to
comes to
mention that this
Afghanistan,
woman
for
just
example,
straight up
who
lied
talk
about Bernie
5
this
more
last
years,
week?
10
Like,
more
is
years.
this
Shoot,
story not
Lindsey
going to come
Graham
out?
talks about leaving troops there for 100 more years. No one has a solution and an end point.
We
need
know
to
you
get our
don't.
combat troops out. They are not helping create more safety for the United States or the region.
Vice President Biden, is Senator Warren right?
Well, I'll tell you what, there's a difference between combat troops and leaving special forces in a position. I was part of the coalition that put together
Oh my God.
68 countries to deal with stateless terror.
That was in
as well as
19
failed
diggity
states.
2.
Not us alone, 68 other countries.
We went home
That's
and
how
watched
we
the
were able to
comedic
defeat
stylings of Bob Hope.
and end the caliphate for ISIS. They'll come back if we do not deal with them and we do not have someone who can bring together the rest of the world to go with us with small numbers of special forces we have to organize.
Hope his teeth is
Mayor
holding up.
Buttigieg, you served in Afghanistan. Who's right?
We can continue to
Fix a
remain
dent and forget
engaged
it.
without having an endless commitment of ground troops. But what's going on right now is the
You
president.
know my people aren't big on commitment.
The very
We
president
prefer
who said he was
bathhouse
gonna
flings.
end endless war,
I mean,
who pretended to have been against the war in Iraq all along, though we know that's not true, now has more troops going to the Middle East. And whenever I see that happen, I think
is
about
America
the
going to
leaders
elect a
and the
ventriloquist
time
dummy?
that was
Is this
set
seriously
aside
going to happen?
for
Because
saying goodbye to
it's
family.
he's kind of
I
hanging
remember
in there, but
walking with a friend of
I have a
mine,
feeling his
another
front runner
lieutenant I trained
status is kind of
as
bullshit.
He walked away, and his
I mean, he's gone in and out of the front runner position.
After him, not understanding why
Prefers
his
the pole
father
position, I believe.
wasn't
What?
turning back to scoop
not-
him up. And it took all the
No.
strength he had not to turn around and look at his boy one more time.
All right.
That is happening by the
I turned it
thousands
up, you whining
right now,
fucking maggots.
as we see so many more troops sent into harm's way. And my perspective is to ensure that that will never happen when there is an alternative
there we go.
as Commander-in-Chief.
Senator Sanders.
Well, in America today, our infrastructure is crumbling. Half of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. 87 million people have no health care or are underinsured.
Yeah, underline that
500,000
instability
people
note, because
sleeping
that's
out on the
that's
streets
something you
tonight.
want to run on,
The
Bernie.
American people are sick and tired of
If
endless
Trump's
wars
instability is a
that
mark
cost
against
us
him, what better way to
trillions of
convey
dollars.
stately
Our job
calm
is to rebuild
than
the
a
United
shrieking
Nations,
socialist muppet who
to
looks like he's
rebuild the
conducting the
State
New York
Department,
Philharmonic
make sure
one-handed,
that we have
who had a
the
heart
ability
attack
of
all
bringing
of fucking
the
3
world
months
together
ago. There's a
to resolve
fucking... Why not just
international
tap dance on the San Andreas fault while you're at it?
and stop the endless wars that we have experienced.
We're going to get to
Fucking
everyone,
shit.
but Vice President Biden, you criticized President Trump's decision to kill the Iranian General Soleimani without first going to Congress.
Oh, is Cicero in the
Are
background?
there any circumstances other than a direct attack on the United States where you would take
Giggito.
military action without congressional
Where's
approval?
Cicero?
I ran
There
the
he
first
is.
time
Come on,
as
bud.
a 29-year-old kid against the war in Vietnam.
on,
on the
Giggito.
grounds that only way to
There
contain
he
a nation was
is,
with
the only
informed
proper
consent
statesman on this
of the
stream.
American people. The informed consent of the
bud.
American people.
Hey, buddy.
And with regard to this idea that we can
big
walk
guy.
away and not have
He's a
any
big,
troops
big guy.
anywhere, including special
Actually, let me show you
forces,
how big.
There's no way you negotiate or been able to negotiate with terrorists. You have to be able to form coalitions to be able to defeat them or
All right,
contain
he's
them.
massive.
If you
He's a
don't,
grizzly
we end up
bear
being
now.
The world's policeman again. They're going to come to us. They've come to us before. They'll come to us again. So it's a fundamental difference than negotiating with other countries. It's fundamentally the requirement that we use our special forces in small numbers to coordinate with other countries to bring together coalitions.
Mr. Vice President, just to
Bro,
be
you
clear,
can't
the
coordinate
Obama
your
Biden
top and bottom
administration
teeth.
Did not ask Congress for permission multiple times when it took military action. So would the Biden Doctrine be different?
No, there was the
Biden
Authorization for Use of Military
Doctrine.
Force that was passed by the United States.
What
Congress,
amazes me
House,
about
and
Biden
Senate.
is this presumptive frontrunner status. Number one, didn't he like barely get like 1% of the vote in the last time he ran for president? Like when he was like cock teasing running for president, everyone was like, "My God, Biden will steamroll the competition." It was like, where are you getting that from? Like his previous attempt, he got totally BTFO'd and wound up having to settle for the vice presidency. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? The second thing is, he's not even campaigning that much. Like, have you guys noticed? Not that I can blame the guy when he draws a lower crowd than fucking Impact Wrestling when he actually does hold a goddamn event. He'll have like 2 people and a fucking poodle show up. Biden's back goes out more than he does, for fuck's sake.
Often on
All right, anyway,
deployment
continue.
after deployment. And we've got to make sure that
We're
Congress
missing some
has the
great
courage to
stuff
take
from
tough
Buttigieg
up or down
here.
votes on whether they ought to be there. And when I am president, anytime, which I hope will never happen, but anytime I'm compelled,
They had to
use
turn the
force, I seek
podium
that
stool
authorization
upside down to
through
get
a
Buttigieg to show
3-year
tonight.
sunset, so that the American people are included not
Thank
only
you.
in the decision about whether to send troops, but whether to continue.
Thank you. Senator Warren, we're going to get to everyone, but Senator Warren, what about
You notice only the
you?
peons
Are there
get
any
interrupted.
circumstances other than a direct attack on the United States where you would take military action without congressional
Only the
approval?
Klobuchars and the
Imminent threat,
Buttigieg
but
are
we need
subjected
an
to the
authorization for the use of
rules for mere
military
mortals.
force before we take
When
this
I
nation
become
into
president.
combat. That is what
Yeah,
the
president of
Constitution
what? The
provides,
Glee
and
Club?
That's what as commander-in-chief I will do. But I just want to be clear. Everyone on this stage talks
Shadow
about
baby,
nobody
yeah, I
wants
have.
endless war.
I've
But
got
the
my
question
guns.
is, when and how
I'm
do you
clinging
plan
to
get
my.
out of it? You know,
I'm clinging to my
Senator
guns and
Sanders-
religion tonight.
We have one general after another in Afghanistan who comes in and says, you know, we've just turned the corner. And now it's all going to be different. And then what happens?
I propose
All
a
the same
smoke 'em
for another
peace
year.
pipe
Someone
resolution.
who comes in and we've just turned the corner. We've turned the corner so many times we're going in circles in these regions. This has got to
Smoke
stop.
circles,
It's
you
not
might
enough
say.
to
But,
someday we're going to get out.
can you-
No one on the ground, none of our military can describe what the conditions are for getting out. It's time to get our combat troops home.
Mr. Steyer, would a President Steyer use military force as a deterrent? And if not, under what circumstances would you take military action?
Yes, let's hear from the
Take
human
military action
campaign
to protect
commercial for
the
Donald
lives
Trump.
and safety of American citizens. But what we can see in the Middle East and what this conversation shows is that there is no real.
I love how he always turns to the camera.
Doing in the Middle East. Obviously, Mr. Trump has no strategy.
It's like he's
He
doing
is
an
going from
infomercial,
crisis
like every
to
time.
crisis, from escalation to escalation.
I feel like he's like
if you look
a
further
set of
over the
bad
last 20
teeth and
years,
an Australian
including the war
accent
in
away from
Afghanistan,
trying to
we
sell
know
me
from the
fucking,
Washington Post
you know,
that in
tooth
fact,
polish.
There was no strategy. There was just a series of tactical decisions that made no sense. So we really have to ask ourselves in the Middle East.
And now
what
for
are we
3
trying
low
to do?
payments of $45.99.
To do it, we should definitely be doing it in coalition with other countries. And I want to point out that as we do that, we're confronted by this issue, which everyone
He is-
talking about.
he's the
At
Billy
same
Mays
time,
of the
there's a
Democratic
gigantic
dais.
climate issue in Australia, which also requires.
Which is
the same
apropos,
kind
'cause
of
our last
value-driven
president was a
coalition
glorified
building
fucking
that we
ShamWow
actually should be
salesman.
using in the Middle East. We need to ask ourselves, how are we going to provide a world that is safe?
It is a lot of head bob,
We
Jesus.
can prosper more.
I'm
and
watching
every
a fucking
single thing we do
Funko
should
debate.
Follow into that strategy, and it's just not happening in Washington D.C.
He does look like he saw a
Another
ghost,
critical
you're right.
issue you'd face as president is the threat of nuclear weapons. Last week,
threat
President
of
Trump
nuclear
said, quote,
weapons.
as long as I'm president of the United States, Iran will never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. Would a President Buttigieg make that same promise?
Ensuring that Iran does not develop nuclear weapons. will, of
President
course, be a
Buttigieg.
priority
How'd she
because
say
it's
that with a
such an
straight
important
face?
part of keeping America safe.
Of course, he can't do it with
But
a straight
unfortunately,
anything.
President Trump has
But
made
anyway,
it
sorry.
much harder
Sorry.
for
I
the
apologize.
next president to achieve that goal by gutting the Iran nuclear deal.
All right.
One that, by the way, the Trump administration itself
By raw dogging
admitted
the Iran
was
deal.
working, certified that it was preventing progress toward a nuclear Iran. By gutting that, they have made
right.
the region more dangerous and set off the chain of events that we're now dealing with as it escalates even closer to the brink of outright war.
The brink of outright war.
In order to get that done, we've got to work with our partners. Iran
It's
nuclear
like
deal,
listening
the
to
technical
CNN
term
talk
for it
to
was the
itself.
JCPOA,
Like
that first
it's
letter
very
J
telling. Every single
stood for
debate has
joint.
been on
We
CNN.
can't do this alone.
This
Even
is not
less so now.
ring
After
any
everything
alarm
that has happened,
bells
which
about
is
the
why it will be
objectivity of
so
media.
critically important to
Every
engage
single
leaders,
Democratic
including
debate.
A lot of new leaders emerging around the world, and ensure that we have the alliances we need to meet what I believe is not just an American goal, but a widely shared goal around the world to ensure.
Now
that
have your
Iran does
puppeteer
not
throw his
become
voice.
a nuclear-armed country.
And Mayor Buttigieg, to be clear, would you allow Iran to become a nuclear power? Yes. or
Wow,
no?
she basically called him out on not answering the question.
Security depends.
Wow.
That Iran does not become nuclear. And by the way, we've got a lot of other challenges with nuclear.
This is what happens in
proliferation
these
around
debates:
the
is they have
world.
the
Despite this president's
prefabbed fucking
coziness
talking
with
points, and they're
Vladimir
like, well,
Putin,
that
we actually
vaguely
seem to be
relates.
Further away from being
Let me just
able
talk
to
about
work
that
with
instead.
Russia on things like the
You know,
renewable
Melinda,
side.
I bought my kids a
We've got
Super
to
Soaker
move
for
toward
Christmas.
Less, not more nuclear danger, whether it is from states, from stateless potential terrorist actors,
Thank you, Mayor
or
Buttigieg.
anywhere else around the world.
Thank you, Mayor Buttigieg. Senator Klobuchar,
Thank you,
if
Mayor.
become
That still wasn't
president,
an answer.
It's very possible there won't be an Iran nuclear deal for the United States to rejoin. Given that, how would you
There wasn't one to begin with, you
I
stupid
would start
bint.
negotiations again, and I won't
wasn't.
take that as a given that our European partners
fucking thing
are
wasn't
still
worth the
trying to hold the
paper it
agreement
was fucking
together.
printed on. If it
My
was even
issue
printed
is
on
that
paper.
because of the actions of Donald Trump.
Of course, they got a lot of our
we are
paper
in a
to print it on.
situation where they are now Iran is starting to enrich uranium again in violation of the original agreement. So what I would do is
They were doing that
negotiate.
before.
I would
You
bring people together,
stupid dolt.
just as President Obama did years ago, and I think that we can get this done. But you have to have a president that sees this as a #1 goal. And in answer to the original question you asked the mayor, I would not allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. And then you have to get an agreement in place. I think there are changes you can make to the agreement. Better
Man,
sunsets,
starting out
some
with
changes
foreign
to the
policy here
inspections,
was a
but
bad move.
overall,
It
that is
really
what we
exposes
should
the
do.
weakness
And I
in
am the
all
one
these
person
candidates.
on this
Bernie's
debate stage
solution
on the
is
first night of the very first debate
get out of the
where we
region
were
and be
asked
more
what we saw
socialist.
as the biggest threat to our world.
Socialist
I said
countries
China
by
and the economy,
by
but
necessity
I
have
said
to be
Iran
massively
because of
globalist and
Donald Trump.
interventionist because they have to have
I
somewhere to
feared that
plunder from,
exactly what
right?
happened
It's the
would
only way
happen.
it
Enrichment
generally
of
fucking
uranium,
works, or else someone
escalation
else
of
has to foot the
tensions,
bill. And
leaving
nobody's
trade
footing our bill,
relations
folks.
with
We're
our
footing
allies.
fucking
We
Europe's
can
bill.
bring
We've
them
been
back,
footing Europe's bill for a
understanding
long
this is
fucking time.
terrorist regime that we cannot allow to have a nuclear weapon.
Vice President Biden, I want to ask you about North Korea.
Biden's solution
President
is
Trump has
fucking.
met with Kim
I mean,
Jong-un
basically, we're
3
listening to
times.
John McCain
President
with bad
Obama once
dentures.
said he would meet with North Korea
Worse
without
dentures,
any
sorry.
preconditions.
And
Would
better
you meet
hair
with North
plugs.
Korea without any preconditions?
No, not now. I wouldn't meet with them without any preconditions. Look,
No,
they
we
gave
tried that
everything they
once
asked for.
in the
Legitimacy.
administration I was a part
The
of.
president showed up, met with him, gave him legitimacy, weakened the sanctions we have against him. I would be putting what I did as vice president. I met with Xi Jinping more than anyone else. I would be putting pressure on China.
Woo,
to put
congrats on
pressure
getting that
on
word out, Biden.
Korea to cease and desist from their nuclear
Credit
power,
where it's due.
Make their efforts to deal with nuclear weapons. I would move forward as we did before.
I would
You
commune with
talked
my
extensively,
advisors
Wolf, about
using a
moving
Ouija
forward the
board.
Whole notion of defense against nuclear weapons that we would, and when China said to me, when Xi Jinping said to me, that's a threat to us, I said, we're going to move and protect
See, now
our
he got
interests from
he
the
got Xi
Canadian
Jinping
involved
out
in
once, and now he
I
has to
would
say it
reignite
again.
the
He's like
relations
flexing.
between Japan and South Korea. And I would
It's like,
put
yeah,
enormous
motherfucker, I can
pressure-
say words.
Enormous pressure on China because it's also in their interest for them to put pressure on North Korea to cease and desist. But I would not meet with, absent preconditions, I would not meet with the, quote,
He gets Xi
Supreme Leader who said
Jinping out
Joe
like
Biden
he's
is a
just
rabid
passing
dog,
a
he should be
turd.
beaten to death with a stick. I count
But
that-
but
than
the
that,
word
what?
absent
Other than that, I
hangs
like
him
him.
up.
And he got a love letter from Trump right after that.
Mr. Steyer, would you meet with North Korea without any preconditions?
No.
Let's not pretend I'm going to be
If we're
president,
going to do
sweetie.
something with North Korea, we're going to have to do it in concert
Bobble,
with our allies.
bobble, bobble,
That meeting
bobble.
with him without preconditions is not going anywhere. That the staff can meet to try and see how far we can get. But this is.
See, I thought you had to at least
situation
get to
where the
first
United
base to
States
have a
idea
bobblehead, but
of
here's
going
Tom
it alone
Steyer.
Makes no sense. And when you are talking about Iran, let's face it. Iran is under great pressure economically.
Iran so far
So every
away.
single discussion we've had about Iran has had to do with military power and America versus Iran. Whereas, in fact, what worked.
Here we go. They're
President
already
Obama
positioning. See,
was
they're
a
claiming
alliance
that
of
Trump
our
wants
allies
war with
and
Iran,
us,
and yet
putting
you can hear in their
economic pressure
rhetoric
on them
they're using
for them
terms
to give
like
up
the
their
U.S.
military
versus
tactic.
Iran,
That, to
right?
me,
This is their terminology, not Trump's.
Having a goal to make America safer by
They
looking
are
more broadly
they are
than
declaring
just us as
they
the
are
policemen
absolutely
of the world
attacking
spending
Trump for
money.
allegedly
theme of
pushing us to
America's
the brink
role
of
in the
war with
world
Iran,
and talk about
while
trade.
pushing a talking point that
Tomorrow,
is
President Trump is
suggesting that we
expected
need
to
to go
sign phase
to war
one
with
of a
Iran.
trade
You can
agreement
see
with
the
China, and the Senate will
disingenuousness.
likely
This is
soon
what they did
approve a new
before
trade
Iraq.
deal with
This is what they
Mexico
did
and
before
Canada,
Afghanistan.
Iowa's largest trading partners. Senator Sanders.
It's what they did before
you have
every
said
drone
that
strike.
New deal, the USMCA, quote, makes some modest improvements, yet you're going to vote against it. Aren't modest improvements better than no improvements
No,
for
we
the
could do
farmers and
much-
manufacturers who have been devastated here in Iowa?
The answer is we could do much better than a Trump-led
Yeah, we can
trade
seize
deal.
the fucking farms.
This deal, and I think the proponents
Fucking
of it
coffee shop
acknowledge,
commie.
will result in the continuation of the loss of hundreds of thousands of good-paying jobs as a result of outsourcing. The heart and soul of our disastrous trade agreements, and I'm the guy who voted against NAFTA and against permanent normal trade relations with China, is that we have forced American workers.
You
to
voted
compete
against trade
people
relations with
in
China
Mexico,
because we're
Israel,
not communist
elsewhere
enough, you
who
stupid
earn starvation
fucking
wages,
shit.
$1
The
or
fucking
$2 an
bullshit
hour.
coming out of this goddamn
Every
Muppet's
major
mouth. Sorry, I'm
environmental
sorry. I should stop calling him a Muppet.
has
Not
said
even
no
Elmo
to
is
new
this
trade
fucking red.
agreement because it does not even have the phrase climate change in it. And given the fact that climate change is right now.
Given the fact that
the
climate
greatest
change
threat
is barely
facing
9
this
years
planet,
old because we tried the
will not
global
vote
warming
for a
thing and
trade
it turned out to be
agreement
bullshit.
that
I
does not
mean,
incorporate very, very strong principles to significantly lower fossil
when you
fuel
pick an
emissions
alarmist climate
in the
phrase
world.
and you pick the wrong
But
one,
Senator Sanders, to be clear,
So you
the
pivot halfway through the
AFL-CIO
decade.
supports this deal. Are you unwilling to compromise?
The AFL-CIO does, the Machinists Union does not, and every environmental organization in this country, including the Sunrise Organization, who are supporting my candidacy, opposes it. So I happen to believe, and I hope we will talk about climate change in a moment.
oh boy,
If we do
I'm
not
sure you
get
do.
our act together in terms of climate change.
Didn't this guy blame
planet
climate
that we're gonna
change
be
for the
leaving
rise
our
of
kids and our
ISIS?
children and our grandchildren
Didn't he?
will be increasingly unlivable
We're going
and
to get to
uninhabitable.
climate change, but I'd
This
like to stay on
motherfucker
trade.
could find a
Senator
way to
Warren,
turn a blowjob
Senator
into
Warren,
about climate
you
change.
support the USMCA.
You know,
Why
you'd
does
have
Senator
more
Sanders
saliva if it wasn't so
did.
hot
I
outside.
wasn't here. I've been in Congress long enough to have voted against NAFTA, but I led the fight against the trade deal with Asia and the trade deal with Europe because I didn't think it was in the interest
Can
of the
you
American
bullshit with
people,
all the colors of the
American
wind?
workers, or environmental
What am I
interests.
saying?
But we have farmers
Warren's
here
on
in
stage, the only
Iowa
color
who
is
are
red.
hurting. And they are hurting because of Donald Trump's initiated trade wars. We have workers who are hurting because the agreements that have already been cut really don't have enforcement on workers' rights. This new trade deal is a modest improvement. Senator Sanders himself has said
You can
so.
have greedy,
It will
entitled
give
workers,
some
or you
relief
can
to our
compete in the
farmers.
world
It will give
economy,
some relief to
unfortunately.
our workers.
Especially when the
I believe
WTO
that
just
we
sits there with their
accept that
thumbs up
relief,
their
we
asses,
try to
letting
help
China
the
get away
people
with
who
fucking
need help,
murder. I mean,
and we
literal
get up
murder.
the next day and fight for a better trade deal.
I mean, in
We need
China, you have
coherent
workers that are
trade
working for like a
policy.
penny a
We
day
need a policy
who
that
live
actually
on
helps
campus
our
to keep,
workers,
like,
our
purposely
farmers.
to keep
We need
costs
them at
down
the
for the
table, not just
company
a trade
and for the
policy
workers,
written
to their
for
credit,
big
right?
international
They literally
companies.
live in
I'm
tenements
ready to have
at
that
the
fight, but
factory.
let's help the
And in
people
America,
who
it's
need
like,
help.
well, let's
Can you
raise the
please
minimum
respond to
wage to
Senator Warren?
$15 an hour and give
Well, I think
mandatory
that
dental and fucking vision.
It is
You
not so
understand
easy to put together
like why
new
we're being
trade
outcompeted in the world
legislation.
economy and
If
why
this is
I'm being
passed, I
served
think
by
it will set
fucking
us
robots
back
at
a number of
McDonald's.
years. Senator Warren is right in saying we need to bring the stakeholders to the table. It is the family farm.
They're
here
so
in
glad
Iowa
Yang
and
isn't
in
on the
Vermont
stage
and
right
around
now
the
because this
country.
is
That is
the subject of
environmental
automation and
community.
being
That is the
outcompeted
workers.
in the world economy. He would
Bottom
just
line
kill
here
on
is
this
I'm
topic,
sick
but
and tired of trade
about the only
agreements
topic he kills on.
negotiated by the CEOs of large corporations
Senator Klobuchar, I'd
behind
like to
doors.
bring you in here.
Brianne, I want to hit reality here. I serve on the Agriculture Committee, and I will never forget going to Crawfordsville here in Iowa. And thank you for bringing up Iowa, Brianne.
They
since
did
that is where we
ratio
are.
Yang. Well, they
And I went to
they
this
imposed
plant, and there
some
was
really
one worker left in
weird
that plant.
requirements
That plant had been shut down because
for
of
this
Donald
debate.
Trump's
I mean, you
trade
know some
policies
bullshit's
and
going
because
on when
of what
Steyer
he had
qualifies
done
for a
to
debate,
those
but
workers
Yang
with
doesn't,
giving
and neither
secret
does
waivers
Tulsi.
to
There's
oil
some
companies and ruining the
fuckery
renewable
afoot,
fuel
folks.
standard. That worker brought out a coat rack of uniforms, and he said, "These are my friends. They don't work here anymore." And their names were embroidered on those uniforms.
Oh, my.
Derek, Mark, Salvador. And that guy started to cry.
Oh.
These are real people hurt by Donald Trump's
And the
trade war.
entire bus
So what we
stood and
should do,
clapped.
I support the USMCA. I am glad that these improvements were made that are supported by people like Richard Trumka and Sherrod Brown.
You motherfuckers
on labor
rallied
and
around
environment,
Hillary the
on
last
pharma,
time.
the
This bitch
sweetheart
was
deal,
saying she
because
was going to
I
put
think
coal
we need a
companies
big
out of
trading
business.
bloc with
Senator
North
Klobuchar.
America
Fuck's
to take
sake.
on China. And the way you
Senator
are stronger
Klobuchar,
with
your
China
time is
is
up.
with
The
your
only
allies.
union
Mayor
you're
Buttigieg,
interested in
do you
is with
support
fucking
the
Soros and all the
USMCA?
other
Yes or no?
goddamn corporate
Yes, it
donors.
has
And that
been
includes Bernie
It is
butt-fucking
not
Sanders,
perfect. But
who has
when you sit
taken
down with
corporate
the people who
donations
are
this time
most
around
impacted,
quietly. Nobody's
they
acknowledging
share
it.
just how much
Last
harm
time
has
around,
been
he
done
at
to
least
them,
had the
by
moral high
things like
ground
the
on that
trade
issue.
war,
Not
and just
anymore.
how much we can benefit American consumers and workers and farmers by making sure we have the right kind of labor and enforceability, as Democrats ensured we got in this USMCA. But let's acknowledge why there is.
But let's talk about
fear
climate
and
change.
frustration.
Oh, wait, sorry.
You know, my part of the country,
Buttigieg,
the
not
industrial
Bernie.
Midwest,
Sorry.
I remember when they came around in the 90s, selling trade deals, telling us, don't worry about your slice of the pie. The pie will get so much bigger that everyone will be better off. And that promise was broken. The part about the pie getting bigger happened.
Nothing
It's
turns
just
me
that
off more than
the part
pie.
about it getting to most people where I live did not. That is why there is such frustration. The sense that these decisions
you.
in boardrooms and in committee rooms in Washington are being made not based on what's best
Thank you,
for
Mayor
us,
Buttigieg.
but based on their own game.
Vice President Biden, Senator Sanders has said Donald Trump will, quote, eat your lunch for voting yes on what he
Eat
calls
your
terrible
lunch.
trade agreements. When it comes to trade, why are you the best candidate to take on President Trump?
There will be no trade agreement signed in my administration without environmentalists and labor at the table. And there will be no trade agreement until we invest more.
Because that worked
in
out so
American
well
workers.
during the
We
Obama
should
administration,
be
and
our
totally
money and
didn't
our
set
effort
the
and our
table
time
for
in
Trump, by
preparing
the way.
American workers to compete.
You
in
understand the
21st
lunacy
century
going on
the
here.
high-tech
Is you
side,
literally
dealing
have a
with
front
all
runner
our
now who is
artificial
from
intelligence.
the
We should be
administration whose
focusing on
failings
equipping
created
American
the
workers
opening for
to do
Trump.
that.
And
by
they
the
think
way,
it's going to
the
work.
idea, I don't know
By
that
and
there's
large,
any
they
trade
think it's
agreement
going to
that the
work. They think
senator
this
would
guy
ever
has a
think
chance.
made any sense. But
Unbelievable.
the problem is that 95%
Holy
of the
shit.
customers are out there.
It's like
We better figure out how.
it's like
we
if Jimmy
begin to
Carter's
regulate
vice
the road,
president
not China.
Senator Sanders.
came out of the woodwork to run against Reagan or
Joe and I
something.
have
You
a
know what I
fundamental
mean?
Disagreement here. In case you haven't noticed. And that is NAFTA, PNTR with China, other trade agreements were written for one reason alone, and that is to increase the profits of large multinational corporations. And the end result of those two, just PNTR with China.
And this is a principle you held to as
and
you bent the fuck
NAFTA
over for
cost us
Hillary
some
Clinton,
4
the wife of the man who
million
drafted
jobs as
NAFTA and
part
signed
of
it into
the
law.
race
What
to
the fuck?
develop. I am sick and tired and will not tolerate. And we will use the power of the federal contracting system. If a corporation in America wants to shut down in Iowa or Vermont or any place else, and then they think they're going to get online for a generous federal contract, they've got another thing going. We need some corporate responsibility here.
Wait a
and we
minute.
need
So
to
he just
protect
advocated
food jobs in
protectionism
America,
while
not seeing
while
those
bashing
in
Trump
China,
for
Mexico,
protectionism. And
Vietnam.
did I just process that correctly? Am I right?
We need corporate responsibility, and I agree with that completely.
Is that
But we
correct?
also need to have
I heard that
mechanisms
correctly, right?
In the agreements we made, enforceable agreements. That's one of the things that has been improved with the trade agreement with Mexico, and that's what we should be doing in any agreement we have. But let's get back to the basics here.
I think he just
If we
complimented
don't
Trump's
set the
trade
rules of
agreement
the
with
road by
Mexico.
going
I
out to our partners instead of poking
that
our
just
eye
happened.
and poking our finger in the eye
Oh
of all
my
our
God.
friends and allies. We make up 25% of the world's economy. We got to bring the other 25%
As I've said a million
of our allies
times,
along
like,
with us
it's
to
not
set
that
the
Biden
rules of the
comes
road
across
so
like-
China cannot continue to
I think
abuse
most
their
people
power
are not
by
persuaded that
stealing our
Biden has
by stealing our
Alzheimer's or
intellectual
dementia,
property,
although
doing all the
frankly,
other
he
things
fucking
using
may
their-
well at this
their
point.
corporate state system to
But it will persuade them that
to
he's
our
not
significant
stable,
disadvantage.
which is
Senator
bad,
Warren.
mainly
No, our
because
problem is not
his
just
only
being
play, frankly, is to play to the stability demographic, to the return to normalcy. In fact, that was his first campaign slogan, was like a minor variant of return to normalcy. It's hard to convey a return to normalcy when you can't remember what fucking state you're in, when you can't get out the word agency. Like,
whisper in the ears of our negotiators and then get deals cut that are great for the giant multinational corporations, not good for America, not good for American workers, not good for the environment. We need a different approach to trade, and it starts by calling out the corruption of these giant corporations that have cut our trade deals. Everybody wants to get
And also
into the
Bernie hates women.
American market, and we need to put some standards in place.
Look at
You want to be
Biden.
able to sell your goods here, then you've got to meet some environmental standards. You've got to meet labor
Biden has that look on his
standards.
face like your dog walking in on you jerking off.
Mr.
Like,
Steyer, even though
he's like,
farmers
what
and
am I even?
manufacturers here in Iowa
Where
and
am
around the
I?
country
Who is
could
this
see
old
some
man?
relief from the China deal, they've been crushed by the current administration's trade war.
I could not
What
pay
will you do
attention
as
to what
president
this
to
old
help
man
them
was
get back
saying.
on their feet?
Look, on the first day, I would undo Mr. Trump's tariffs. On the first day, I would get rid of his waivers that Senator Klobuchar was referring to oil refiners, so that not having to use
Oh my God.
corn-based ethanol. In fact,
This
these
dude should
trade
totally
deals
join
have been
Slipknot. I'm just
exactly
saying.
what Senator
This
Sanders
dude could
and
circle
Warren
bang
have
like
been
a
saying,
motherfucker.
which is that they've been designed to grow the American GDP for the
I'm
corporations
saying just
of
go
America,
from
not for
toupee
the
to
working
wig,
people of America,
and then
not to
circle bang
protect
like a
the
motherfucker.
climate.
I'm
So
saying,
let me
dude.
say this. I'm the only person on this stage who says climate's my number one priority. I
Somebody
will
asked
not
who this
sign
is. Don't worry. Not
this
even Tom
deal,
Steyer
because
knows who
if
Tom
climate's your
Steyer is.
number one priority, you can't sign
Don't
this
worry.
deal, even if it's marginally
This
better
won't
than
be
what
on
we
the
do
test.
until climate is
Don't
also
worry.
taken into consideration. Look, I've got 4 kids.
I feel like a
between the
bad
ages
college
of
professor.
26 and 31. I cannot.
Don't worry,
allow
you can
this
skip
country
this
to go
chapter in
down
the textbook.
The path of climate destruction. Everybody in their generation knows it. Frankly, Mayor Buttigieg, you're their generation. I think you would be standing up more. That's why I'm standing up for it. We cannot put climate on the back.
The
seat
look
all
Buttigieg
the
got.
time and say we're going to sign this one more deal. We're going to do one more thing without putting climate first. That's why it's my number one priority. We can do it in a way that makes us richer, but we have to do it.
Mayor Buttigieg, your response?
Well, that's right. This issue's personal for me. It's why we're going to tackle climate from day one. It's why we've got to make sure that we have better answers.
The large
than we do
African
today.
gentleman
Now, what
named
I've
Climate.
noticed is pretty much all of us propose that we move on from fossil fuels by the middle of the century, starting with actions that we take right now. The question is, how are we going to make sure any of this actually gets done? Because people have been saying the right things.
It
in
is
these
creepy.
debates
Like Steyer
for
is
literally decades.
Steyer like
The other
looking
day,
into the
Winter
camera.
said
It's like
there
he's
was
looking
a kid
into
at
your
one of my events
soul.
raised his hand and he pointed out that he expects to be here in his 90s in the year 2100.
No, absolutely. I mean, this.
He will sit in judgment over what we do, not just what we on this stage do. Anyone old enough to vote right now, whether we actually
We're honestly
put
getting
together the
climate
national
advice
project it will require.
From a party that spent the better part of the last year asking a 16-year-old girl about the weather. That's where we're at, folks.
An issue that's come up in the last 48 hours.
They
Senator
spent the
Sanders-
last year
CNN
asking a
reported
16-year-old
yesterday, and
autist
Senator Warren
about the
confirmed in a
weather.
statement that in 2018, you told her that you did not believe that a woman could win the election. Why
I
did you say
shouldn't
that?
be up here.
Well, as a matter of fact, I didn't say it.
How dare
I don't want
you!
to waste a whole lot of time on this because this is what Donald Trump and maybe some of the media want.
You have stolen my
Anybody
childhood
knows-
with your empty
knows
words.
that it's incomprehensible that I would think that a woman could not be president of the United States.
Oh, here we go.
There's some video of me 30 years ago talking about how a woman could be
Oh
president
boy,
of the
you knew
United
Bernie would
States.
bring it up.
In 2015,
Oh boy.
I deferred, in fact, to Senator Warren. There was a movement to draft Senator Warren to run for president. And you know what? I stayed back. Senator Warren decided not to run, and I did run afterwards. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote.
And I
by 3
cucked like the
million
commie
votes.
douchebag
How
I-
could anybody in a million years not believe that a
I
woman
bent
could
clean
be
over and
president of
parted
the
my
United States?
lavender-scented
And let me be
anus
very
for the
clear.
Hillary
If any of
machine.
the women on this stage or
If that
any
doesn't
of the
say
men
I
on
love
this
women,
stage
I don't know what
nomination,
does.
I hope that's
Plus,
not
I
the case.
invite them to
It's
one of
me.
my 3 mansions all the
But
time.
if they do, I will do everything in my power to make sure that they are elected in order to defeat the most dangerous president.
Can you
in the
blame
history of
Warren
our
for not owning up to that bullshit story about Bernie? I mean, if she retracted the story, wouldn't that make her, gosh, what would be the word for that? If she gave something and then took it back, what would...
Senator Warren, what did you think when Senator Sanders told you a woman could not win the election?
I disagreed. Bernie is my friend, and I am not here to try to fight with Bernie. But look, this question about whether or not a woman can be president has been raised, and it's time for us to attack it head on. And I think the best way to talk about who can win is by looking at people's winning record. So, can a woman beat Donald Trump? Look at the men on this stage.
Yeah, let's look at the winning
They've
record. What
lost
happened the
10
last time a woman ran
elections.
against Donald
The
Trump?
only people on this stage who have won
Especially
every
backstage
single
at a Miss
election
America
that they've
pageant.
been
I mean,
in
what?
Are the women, Amy
What?
and me.
Oh my god. He is gonna grab this election by the pussy. This
And
is
the only person on this stage who has
blood
beaten
coming
an
out of her
incumbent
eyes, coming out of her
Republican
whatever.
any time in the past 30 years is me. And here's what I know. The real danger that we face as Democrats is picking a candidate who can't pull our party together or someone who takes for granted big parts of the Democratic constituency. We need a candidate who will excite all parts of the Democratic Party, bring everyone in, and give everyone a Democrat to believe in. That's my plan, and that is why I'm going to win.
Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you. What do you say? Thank you, Elizabeth.
Senator Klobuchar.
And they do
yes.
this, but what was her last big announcement? It was like a celebrity endorsement?
Oh, okay.
What do you say to people who
I thought it was such an open.
Like, what
I
the
wasn't at the meeting, so I can't comment. But I was gonna.
When I brainstorm
What do you
institutions
say
that should be
to people who
retrofitted
say
into an
that a woman
engine of
can't win
feminist
this election?
discourse, I think I'd rank
I
the
hear
very
that.
same Hollywood
People have
machine
said
that
it.
has
That's why I was
turned the
addressing from
casting
this
couch
stage. I
into
point
a
out that you don't have
ubiquitous,
to be the
genuinely
tallest person in the room.
misogynistic
James
merry-go-round
Madison
of
was 5'4".
underground
You don't have to
sexploitation.
be,
Like,
the
yeah,
skinniest
come on,
person
come
in
the
the
fuck
room.
on. I think I'd place
You don't
that
have to be
just
the
a
loudest
notch or
person.
two
You have to
above,
be competent.
oh,
And when
Joseph
you look at the
Fritzl's
facts,
basement.
Michigan
Maybe Roman
has a woman
Polanski's
governor right
sub-basement.
now,
I
and
don't know.
she beat a Republican, Gretchen
And
Whitmer.
she's getting
Kansas has a
endorsements
woman
from fucking
governor
Hollywood
right
and
now,
talking about
she beat
goddamn
Chris
feminism.
Kobach. And her name is, I'm very proud to know her, and her name is Governor Kelly. Thank you. Third, I would add to this.
I would
you
like to
have
confirm that
be
I too have a
confident to
vagina.
win, and you have to know what you're doing. And when you look at what I have done, I have won every race, every place, every time. I have won in the reddest of districts. I have won in the suburban areas, in the rural areas. I have
Speaking
brought
of
people
women,
with me.
Mayor
That is why
Buttigieg.
I have the most endorsements of current Iowa legislators and former
If they don't,
Iowa
if they
legislators in this
please
race,
let
because
Buttigieg
they know
talk
I
during
bring
the
people with
feminism
me. And
portion.
finally,
Please let.
every single person
Like-
that I have beaten, my
Like,
Republican
what does the man have to do?
gotten out of politics.
I mean, come
for good.
on.
And I think
He plucks his
I think that
eyebrows.
sounds pretty good. I think that sounds pretty good with
no
the guy we have
way.
in the White House right now.
Mayor Buttigieg, you're fruitier than Carmen Miranda's hat. What do you have to say about?
An incumbent Republican running for Congress,
When?
1990. That's how I won, beat a Republican congressman. Number two.
Yeah, who better to change the system than someone who's been in it for over a quarter of a century? This I've never understood with the Bernie Sanders bullshit. Old fucking moldering ass motherfucker who's been in the establishment system over a quarter of a century has more connections within it, thus, than virtually anybody on this stage, except for maybe Biden. And this guy's the dude who's going to radically alter it from the inside. Gotcha. You know, you've been in Congress the whole time. You could have done it this entire time.
Hillary Clinton.
Well, that's not true. He's been an elected official that long.
So who believes that a woman can't win? Of course a woman can win. But the real question is, how do we beat Trump? And the only way we beat Trump is by a campaign of energy and excitement. And a
Campaign of
that
energy
has
and
by
excitement.
far the largest
So here's
voter
three people
turnout
with a
in
combined
the
age
history
of
this
301.
country. And I believe
They're
that
going to
our
embody.
campaign has the strongest
They're going to
voice
embody
movement,
youthful vigor and
is
energy.
endorsed by many grassroots
Warren.
organizations.
Red bullshit gives you wings.
So I do think it's the right question. How do we beat Trump? And here's the thing. Since Donald Trump was elected, women
What we
candidates
need is
have
more money from Jeffrey
outperformed
Epstein. I
men
mean-
candidates in competitive races. And in 2018,
man who enjoyed the minor
we took
things
back
in
the
life.
House. We took back state houses because of women candidates and women voters. Look, don't deny that the question is there. Back in the 1960s, people asked, could a Catholic win? Back in 2008, people asked.
No, they didn't ask if a Catholic could win, you fucking bint, because JFK printed flyer. This is actually has to be said. JFK hired someone, or his campaign manager did. We never established whether he knew about it. We're pretty sure he fucking did. Hired someone to print anti-Catholic literature in the primary as a way of making JFK look good. That led him to the presidency, ultimately. Also, Miss Eve is home.
It's all elements of the party. African Americans.
The amount of lies, like
women, men, gays.
Why can't I hold all this
the fact
bullshit?
Of the matter is that I would argue that in terms of endorsements around the country, endorsements wherever we go, I am the one who has the broadest coalition of anyone running up.
The broadest coalition of broads.
All right, we're going to take a short break now. The CNN Democratic presidential debate live from Drake University. We'll be right back after this.
Okay, folks. Sniffin' Joe, folks. He's having a rough night. He is having a rough night. Biden, he did okay in the last one. It was like he was minding his P's and Q's. I think in this debate, he's kind of forgotten what P and Q actually are. Let me go to the top here and read some super chats, because holy fuck, we have a lot. Dustin Eaton, so Bernie staffers want gulags for Trump supporters. Good luck with that. Good luck getting them to talk about it on the stage here tonight. Because we pretend everything from Project Veritas is out of context. What fucking context that would have been appropriate in, I don't know. What are you talking about, fucking Mortal Kombat? What the fuck? They professionally pretend those investigations do not exist. Dylan Killen. So Greta wants countries to cut out fossil fuels effective immediately, killing millions. But hey, when has a communist not wanted to kill millions? The funny thing is, they all advocate things like recycling, right? Which is actually a net, if we're talking in terms of positive and negative, like in terms of reducing or adding to, is a net positive for pollution, because recycling plants run off of the same power plants that everything else does, which means fucking coal. Or in some cases, nuclear, which, oh my god, environmentalists hate fucking nuclear power. Because it's all mystical bullshit. You know, it's like, they're like practically Amish when it comes to nuclear power. Like, I shun magic things like electricity. It's like they don't understand nuclear power, so they oppose it. It's fucking bizarre. But yeah, recycling, incidentally, we could fit all of the world's garbage into what, like 4 acres stacked 2 stories or something? Like, we could fit it in a field, right? The entire world's garbage would fit in a field, and not even that big of a fucking field. And recycling, meanwhile, actually causes pollution through burning coal. Let's see here. Dustin Eaton, have you heard of Paranormal HK on Steam? Basically alien isolation located in Hong Kong. No, I have not. Graboid Biden. Someone needs to make a game about a social uprising in Hong Kong against China. Do you think we could get Epic to fund it for exclusivity? Yeah, I think we could do an advertising campaign on TikTok. I'm sure they'd be right down with that. James Bursey, if Bernie says Goy or Goyim, he wins the internets. Let's see here. James Bursey, Taryn, take this money and buy a Match.com membership. Taryn's not here because he's lazy. Brandon T, just got home from work, got a cheeseburger, home fries with bacon, and a cold one. Figured I needed to watch some socialism to calm my raging Murica boner to a throbbing freedom erection. Well, I don't know. You'll never understand these positions as long as you have a full plate of food. That's, unfortunately. Brandon T. Also, I was wrong about Klobuchar. Her grampy was a coal miner and her dad was a journalist. Unlike some places, I admit to being wrong. CNN. Who's pretending like CNN? It's amazing that not that long ago, CNN was considered like the middle-of-the-road network. They never were, by the way. They were always this biased. That's the hilarious part. They didn't shift. They just got more... They just stopped wearing the mask, essentially. Kind of like Tulsi over the last couple of weeks. Tulsi was always a Bernie bro in disguise. I said pretty much from the beginning. There are all kinds of pictures of her. She was... I don't know if she was involved in his campaign or something, but I know she consulted with Bernie before she ran for office, and you really saw it in this last week. I truly believe what's going on with Tulsi, who I think is probably the next person to drop out, by the way. I don't think it was considered. I don't think it's strategic, because if you think about it, it doesn't really make sense. She's not going to win the far left over her side. She's not stealing Bernie voters. But she came out immediately and defended Bernie after what Warren said, the whole thing about him not thinking a woman could be president or whatever. I don't think that was considered. I don't think that was a move to try and get the far left into her camp. I really don't. I think actually what that was just knee-jerk. I think she probably just threw that out immediately, because deep down, she is a dyed-in-the-dog shit Democratic socialist. But she's smart enough and canny enough to know that that doesn't really play right now. And we are back to the bullshit souffle, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's turn to health care, the top issue for
Oh, dear.
Democrats. Donald Trump is trying to repeal Obamacare, including the protections for pre-existing conditions. We all know that
that's not true. That's actually not true. That's like the one thing he's not trying to repeal, unfortunately.
Each of you would do. Senator Sanders, you've consistently refused
Repeal
to say
and replace.
exactly how much your Medicare for All
which he
plan
shouldn't,
is
by the
going to
way.
cost. Don't voters deserve?
I've said it a million times. I'm done having a debate on this subject. Obamacare goes. No qualifications. In fact, roll it back to 2007. Mathematically, there is not one way our healthcare was not better in the year 2007 than it is now. Not one. Not one. Yes, you could say more people are air quotes covered, but they're paying more for less. They're not even really covered. They're covered on fucking paper. Our healthcare was better. Our costs were better. There isn't a single way in which Obamacare made our healthcare better. It was better in every solitary fucking way in 2007. So I will support no healthcare program that does not roll back everything to 2007. Okay? If you want to build off that and improve it from there, you go ahead and fucking do that. But we start from 2007, because that is the last time we had a halfway fucking sane healthcare system. Fucking period. 2007, 2007, 2007.
Paying $12,000 a year.
He's
We
lying
save money,
fucking Bolshevik
comprehensive
bullshit
healthcare,
merchants.
Because we take on the greed and the profiteering and the administrative
I mean, for fuck's
nightmare
sake,
that currently exists
I
in our
recently
dysfunctional system.
Vice President.
finally managed to get out from under my ridiculous Obamacare, folks. So I had to enroll in Obamacare to avoid being fucking taxed by the government and paying the government to exist once a year with my fucking tax bill, fucking over $1,000 or whatever the fuck the goddamn fee was for not being enrolled in Obamacare. I was paying $300 a month, over $300 actually, and my doctor wasn't even covered. My fucking doctor wasn't even covered. It was ridiculous.
Folks who want it. And in fact,
That's what
to make
Obamacare
sure that
did,
we,
folks.
In the process, reduce
What
the
a
cost
bunch of fucking bullshit.
Drug prices, reduce the cost of being able to buy into subsidize it further, and make it available to everyone. Here's the deal. That costs a lot of money. That costs $740 billion.
Yeah, it's almost better to pay the
years.
fine. Of course, now the fine, luckily, the Obamacare mandate has been repealed. You don't have to pay that fine anymore.
What Joe forgets to say is when you leave the current system as it is, what you are talking about
It is taxpayer extortion. And of course, the hilarious part is they couldn't have had Obamacare if they didn't charge you for not having Obamacare, because the Supreme Court only allowed it on the basis that it's a tax. So they have to charge you annually. The Supreme Court would only allow it if they charged you for not fucking having it, which seems like directly anti-constitutional, right?
On the greed and corruption of the healthcare industry, of the drug companies, and finally provide health care to all through a Medicare for all single-payer program. It won't be easy, but that is what
Keep your doctor. How about you keep your fucking plan, asshole?
You can do without Medicare for all. You can get the same place.
Senator Klobuchar, your response.
Yeah, Senator Sanders and I have worked together on pharmaceuticals for a long
Bernie,
time,
the only
and we agree on
borderline.
this.
It's
But what I
scary
don't
when
agree with
when
is
Biden
that
becomes
we-
the only borderline
his
sane
position
person on the
healthcare.
stage. But he was just now.
I was in Vegas
He was.
the other day, and someone said, "Don't."
The only
put your
thing even
chips
approaching
on
a voice of
number
reason on
the
this
wheel
issue.
That isn't
Medicare
even
for
on the
all
wheel.
is not
That's
not
the
only not
problem.
practical
Over
in a country the
2/3
size of the
the
United
Democrats
States.
in the U.S. Senate
But,
are not on the bill that you and Senator Warren
Not
are
not
on.
even remotely
You have
affordable with
numerous
our current
governors
deficit,
that are
especially.
Democratic that don't support this. You have numerous House members that put.
If you
Nancy
haven't yet
Pelosi
seen
in the
it,
Speaker.
you
The
really need to
answer is
watch
a
Ted
nonprofit
Cruz
public
debate Bernie
option.
Sanders
The answer
on this
is
issue, because
the
I have
real
never
debate
seen
we
Bernie
should be having
Sanders
is how do we
speechless
make it
before in
easier
my
for
life.
people
He was
to get
shut the
coverage
fuck
for
down. It was
addiction and
unbelievable.
mental
And
health.
I'm no
I
Ted
have a
Cruz
plan
fan,
for that.
all right?
And then finally,
I am a fan of
what do you do about
his
long-term
rash
care?
of
The
serial
elephant that
murders in the
doesn't even fit
60s,
in
but
this room. We need to make it easier for people to get long-term
But
care
he shut him
insurance.
right the fuck
We
down.
need to make it easier for them to pay for their premiums. My own dad, I know when his long-term care insurance ends. And then we have some savings for him. He's in assisted living. He got married 3 times, whole nother story, so there isn't much there.
Wow.
But then we go to Medicaid.
We've actually
I have
reached the
already
yada, yada,
talked
yada
about
portion of
elder
tonight's
care.
debate.
They're willing to take him in. Our story is better than
telling
so many other families. We
She
have
seems to
make
be
it
really big
easier
on
for long-term care.
anecdotes.
It's
Thank
not
you.
just
Thank
for
you, Senator
seniors.
Klobuchar.
It's also for the sandwich
Thank
generation.
you, Senator
People
Klobuchar.
trying to help their parents.
Senator Warren.
So we need to start with what's happening in America. People are suffering. I'll just pick one. 36 million people last year went to the doctor, got a prescription. This is what they needed to get well, and they couldn't afford to have the prescription filled. They looked at it and said it's either groceries or this prescription.
Oh, shut the fuck up.
My approach to this is we've got to get as
Shut
much
the
help
well,
to
what
as
kind
many
of
people
prescription?
as
What the
quickly
fucking
as
opioids
possible.
you're supposed to be
I've
fighting and
worked out a
refuse to
plan
fucking
where we can
mention?
do that without raising taxes on middle-class
I can
families
see that being
by
expensive,
one
but
thin dime. What
not
I
really
can
a
do are the
need.
things I can do as president on the first day.
For the record, I should say I'm not just passing judgment on this one. I actually am someone who has to be on prescription medication for a thyroid condition, right? I have to take regular fucking medication. It's like 20 bucks, something like that. Like, the fuck? I could give blood and be able to afford that fucking medication 4 times over. You know what I mean? In one afternoon.
About the best way to do healthcare.
Incidentally,
But we're
I could
going
give
to be
blood
up
and be able to
against a
afford the
Republican
average doctor
incumbent
visit. My
who
doctor's
has
like
cut
90
healthcare
bucks a
for
fucking
millions of
visit or
people and
something.
is still trying to do that. I'll
Which
take
is
our
cheaper than my
side
goddamn
any
healthcare
day.
was.
We're gonna
Thank you,
beat him
Senator
on
Warren.
this.
Vice President Biden.
Fucking hell.
The proposal I lay out does, in fact, limit drug costs. It sets up, it allows all the drug companies, it allows you to, Medicare, to negotiate with drug companies for the price. It sets a system whereby you cannot raise the price of a drug beyond the cost of medical inflation. And by the way, there's mental health parity that I call for in the Obamacare.
We're getting lots of parody from you, Biden.
Mr. Steyer.
Look, we've had this conversation on this stage so many times. Everybody on this stage believes
It's like he's
affordable
narrating the
healthcare is
debates.
a right for every
He'll be
single
like
American.
looking off to the side. The
Everybody
funniest
on this
part is
stage
of
knows that
every
Americans
debate
are
with
paying
Tom
twice
Steyer
as
in it
much for
is where
healthcare
he's looking off
as
to the
any
side
other
and he
advanced
immediately
country in the
turns to
world. That
address the
makes no
camera.
sense,
It's
and
like
the government
he
has to
keeps
step
breaking
in.
the fucking
I
fourth
do
wall.
happen to agree with Vice President Biden that we should move and develop the Affordable Care Act with a public option. But the real
Of course, if
question
I had to
is
look
this.
over at
This
Biden,
is
I
not a
probably
new
wouldn't be
problem.
crazy
Why
about
do we
looking at
keep having
anything
this
other than the
conversation?
camera at that
we
point.
have a broken government. It has been bought by corporations.
It's gonna be like
that include
Nazis
drug
staring at the
companies,
Ark of the
insurance
Covenant and
companies,
fucking
and the
Indiana
private
Jones.
hospitals. That's what I'm talking about. How do we get back government of, by, and for the
Why
people?
is this guy on
How
stage?
do we actually
Thank you.
break the
Apparently
corporate
he
stranglehold
like
on our
barely
government so that we
qualified
can
under a
get these things
complete
passed?
Thank you, Mr.
bullshit
Steyer.
qualification.
Senator Sanders.
Like he was
your
randomly in a
campaign
really
proposals
weird
would double
skewed
federal
poll
spending
and
over the
qualified
next
in the
decade,
1%,
an
which is
unprecedented
like
level
one of only
spending
like
not
2
seen
times that
since
he's
World War
even
II.
polled at
How would you
1%
keep
or
your
something,
plans from bankrupting?
and somehow managed
Our plan
to
wouldn't bankrupt
skate in by the skin of his
country, and
teeth.
In fact, it would much improve the well-being of working-class families and the
With the
middle
amount
class.
of money that he's spent on fucking
Let us be
campaign
clear what
advertisements, this
Medicare
guy.
for all does. It ends
Come on.
all premiums. It ends all co-payments. It ends the absurdity of deductibles. It ends out-of-pocket expenses. It takes on the pharmaceutical industry.
It costs
which
too
in some
much to
cases
pay for. I mean-
charges us 10 times more for same prescription
Ask
drugs,
him the
so
same
the
questions
more
Ted
it's
Cruz
on
did about how you're gonna
what
fucking
we
pay
will
for
do
it.
through a Medicare for All single payer program is substantially lower the cost of health care for employers and workers because we end the $100 billion.
Just mathematically speaking, there has not been a single Medicare for All proposal, especially Bernie's, which is the most expensive of all, that has come in under multi-trillions of dollars, which is at a time when we already have multi-trillions in fucking deficit. I don't know how you even begin to entertain this fucking delusory nonsense, but
Us to do the same.
Senator Klobuchar.
Again, I think it is much better to build on the Affordable Care Act, and if you want to be practical,
oh yeah,
and
that's something to
progressive
build
at
on.
the same
Oh
time,
yeah.
and have a plan and not a pipe dream, you have to show how you're going to pay for it. And I would also
She
note
should have looked at
practically
Warren when she
that
said
the
pipe
Affordable
dream. I'm
Care
just
Act
saying.
right
I'm
now
just
is
for
10 points
purely
more
for
popular
comedy.
than the President of the United States. So I think the answer
And
is to
how?
build on it. And yes, I think you should show how you're going to pay for things, Bernie. I do.
No shit!
This president is
Holy
treating
shit!
people out there like
Klobuchar, the
chips
only
in one of
person
his
on the
bankrupt
stage.
casinos. The way he is adding to our debt. I am the one person up here who has on her website, in her plan, a plan to actually start.
I'm the
taking
only
on
one with the
deficit
Pokeballs
by
to take
taking
on this
part of
problem.
that money from that corporate tax cut that they put in there and putting it in a fund to pay back the
you.
deficit.
Thank
And
you.
I have shown
Thank you,
how I'm
Senator
going to pay
Klobuchar.
for every single plan. Capital gains
Thank you,
tax
Senator
going to the
Klobuchar.
personal level, getting rid of the oil giveaways,
Let's
doing
move
something.
on.
about
Oh my
the
God,
fund
channeling
control.
Elizabeth Warren
You
here.
can go
Just
through
cut the
and try to
bitch's
get
mic!
the money
Let's
to
move
pay
on
for
to the next
things.
question. Mayor
My
Buttigieg,
God.
you're calling your plan as Medicare for all.
Jesus.
Yet your plan would automatically
Like a fucking
enroll
carnival
uninsured Americans
barker.
into a public option, even if they don't want it, and force them to pay for it. How is that truth in advertising?
Well, it's making sure that there is no such thing as an
She did find a way to
American.
not wedge in
Look, the
anecdotal evidence, though.
individual
I give her
mandate was
that.
an important part of the ACA because the system doesn't work.
Anecdotal
There
evidence
are
is
free
not
riders.
evidence. At least that's what
I'm
people tell me.
offering is a choice. You don't have to be in my plan if there's another plan that you would rather keep. And there's no need to kick Americans off the plans.
The
that
only
they
plan I
want
wanna hear from
in order
anybody
to
on the
deliver
stage is a fucking
healthcare for
escape
all.
plan.
And my plan is paid for. Look, our party should no longer hesitate to talk about the issue of the debt and the deficit. Now, we've got a dramatically better
Really
track record
brings
on
into
it than the
focus why there are
Republicans do.
people,
In my lifetime,
why
it's
why
almost been
Hillary is
very
polling higher than the
Republican
fucking front runner
presidents who
right
have
now.
added to the deficit. $1
This
trillion
is, you know,
under this
at
president.
first glance you'd
And
think,
it's
why would they even
everything
think
I've
of
done.
running Hillary
From
again? And then
Medicare
you
for all
look
who
at this
want it,
fucking
to
dais
the
and you're like,
historic
oh my
investments we're going to
God,
make in
they're
infrastructure,
fucked.
to dealing with climate
This is
change,
bad.
fully paid for.
They're
When it comes to
honestly
healthcare,
talking about
you can do
this
it in
fucking
2
ventriloquist
moves.
dummy
Of
being
course, my plan
the next
costs
front runner.
$1.5
And it's just
trillion
like,
over a
what?
decade. No small sum.
Where
but
are
not
we?
the
Did I
20,
fall
30,
down?
40 that we're hearing about from the others. All I got to do is 2 things. Both of them are common sense. Allow Medicare to negotiate prescription drug prices and roll back the Trump corporate tax cuts that went to corporations and the wealthy that didn't even need it.
Senator Warren.
So I started this by talking about 36 million Americans, including Americans with insurance, who just can't even afford to have a
36
prescription filled.
gorillion, folks.
We all talk about plans, healthcare plans that we have, and these plans are paid for. The problem is that plans like the mayor's and like the vice president's is that they are an improvement. They are an improvement over where we are right now. But they're a small improvement. And that's why
Warren
it is
has
that they cost
no
so much.
fucking.
Because by
She has
themselves,
no
there wouldn't be
currency to
enough
talk
cover
on this fucking
prescriptions
subject.
for 36
She has been
million people who
slammed
can't
over and
afford to
over and
get
over
them
again
filled.
for not talking
What we
about how
need
she
to
would
do
pay for her
is make
fucking
the
plan. She
commitment
still has no
that we
answer.
know where
And
the
she
money
still hasn't
comes
given one,
from.
too, over
We
the
can
course of
ask
this fucking
those
debate.
At the very top, the top 1% to pay a little more. Those giant corporations like Chevron and
Bro,
Amazon who pay
she's
nothing
hitting
for
the
taxes,
top
we can
1%
have
will
them
pay for it all.
And we can go after
That's what Cruz hit Bernie the hardest on. He actually crunched the numbers on stage live with Bernie and was like, if the top 1% paid 90% fucking tax, and then actually didn't he say something to the effect of if they paid 100% tax, it still wouldn't pay for it'd still pay for like a third of your fucking plan?
The plan I'm proposing is small. We got to move past a Washington mentality that
Warren
suggests
is
that the
clueless on
bigness
this
of
issue.
plan
Like, just
only
clueless.
consists of how many trillions
Even if
of
you
dollars
support
they put through the
healthcare
treasury.
for all, like,
That the
she's
boldness
just-
of a plan only consists
she's
of
huffing
how
her
many
own farts
Americans
here.
it can alienate. This would be a game changer. This would be the biggest thing we've done to American healthcare in a half century.
When I thought of
Let's
this, I
measure the
felt 3
effects
feet
of our
tall.
plans based on what they would do in our everyday lives. And yes, we're taking on cost. on prescription drugs. We'll have an out-of-pocket cap, even if you don't get the subsidies that would make it free, a $250 monthly cap. And here's why it's got to be monthly. You ever been in that situation or known somebody who finds that they've got to defer a procedure or delay filling a prescription to try to have it happen in the right month? Because of when your out-of-pocket cap hits, it makes no sense medically, because most of us don't experience the economy on an annual basis. Our bills don't come in every year, they come in every month. Same with our paychecks, bi-weekly or monthly. That's why we set this up in a way to solve the problem.
Bro, you can't write a whole speech to answer. You gotta just give the answer. And you have to give the hardest point first, and then work back to the shitty points. First rule of fucking debate, bro.
Some combination of deductibles and co-pays and uncovered expenses and fees. You can't cover that with the kind of money that the mayor is talking about. The way we have to approach this is we've got to build this, and we've got to build the alliances.
Warren, the chick who has still not answered how she's gonna pay for her fucking health plan, is gonna rap to us all about what we can afford.
Dollars out of the system immediately in costs. We can get help to families, but we have to be willing to work
If
together.
the Epstein story has taught us anything, it's that where there's a will, there's a wang.
When it's you and your doctor, your mental health professional, your nurse practitioner with no insurance company standing in the middle. When people try it and use it, then
Senator Warren, you acknowledged that Medicare for All, that you couldn't get there right away. You got on the bill that said on page 8, which is why I didn't get on it, that you would kick 149 million Americans off their current health insurance. Then, a few months
There's
ago,
no
you said,
way to
"No, you're
replace
gonna
the
wait a
entire
while,
healthcare plan without
to
kicking
get there."
everyone off
And
of
I think that
their
was some
healthcare plans, as
acknowledgement that
Obama
maybe
learned.
what we're talking about is true. And I don't buy that it's not enough. It is a big step to say to people,
If you like
making
your 8-year ass
$100,000
fucking,
a
you can
year,
keep
that
your
premiums
8-year ass
will
fucking.
be cut in half, which is what the nonprofit public option will do. And if you talk, Mayor Buttigieg, about Medicare and having negotiation, I actually have led that bill for years. I have 34 co-sponsors. As president, I can get it.
You know, the
done
funniest
that
thing
would
about this
allow
dais
Medicare to
is
finally negotiate
it's so
and lift the
transparently
ban that Big
artificial
Pharma
trying to
got
keep it
into
down to
law
6 people,
that
because
says they
there's
can't
actually like
negotiate for
fucking
better
20
prices for our
something.
seniors.
There's
I will get
shitloads
it
of
done.
candidates you've
Senator
never even
Sanders,
heard
coming
about.
to you now. CNN
It's like,
reached out
what's the
to
like
Iowa
governor or
Democratic
mayor
voters
in
for their
Colorado or
most
something?
pressing
He's never even
questions.
been on a debate
Edward from
stage.
here in
He's been
Des
running
Moines
this whole
writes,
time. Apparently,
Des Moines is an
you wouldn't know.
insurance town. What happens to all the insurance industry, the health insurance industry here, if there is Medicare for all? What happens to all the jobs and the livelihoods of the people that live in insurance towns? Like
Simple. They get shittier than a Ganges water sample.
So our Medicare for All program, a transition fund of many, many billions of dollars that will provide for up to 5 years income and health care and job training for those people. But here is the issue. Tom Steyer made the point a moment ago. We are now spending twice as much per person on health care as do the people of any other country. That is insane. In some
Yeah.
cases, 10 times more
And it's a direct-
for prescription drugs.
It's
Why
a
is that?
direct response
Why
to the
is
bill
that?
you fucking
And
voted
the
for,
answer is
retard.
the
What the
greed
fuck?
and corruption of the
I've
drug
said it before, but
companies
here in
and the insurance
Arizona, we are getting raw
And if
dogged
we wanna do what
on
every
that.
other
Our
major
healthcare
country
premium
on Earth
soared by
does, and
118%
guarantee
in this state
healthcare
specifically.
is a human right, not a privilege. You know what we have to do? We are finally going to have to stand up to the healthcare industry and end
Stand
hundreds
up
of billions of dollars of waste and profiteering.
Mr. Steyer.
I just want to.
This happened
emphasize
because
what
you
Senator
stood up to the
Sanders
healthcare
said.
industry, you retard.
This is not a complicated problem. Between what Senator Warren and Senator Sanders said, it's clear. There are two problems. We're spending way too
He's
much
peering
because
into your
corporations
soul.
own the system, and we're not negotiating against those corporations. And we've given tax cuts to the richest Americans and the biggest corporations for decades.
It's
That's
like
all this is. We have
the look of a
corporations
man
who
who
are
is
having
peering
their way
through
with
your
the
front yard
American
bushes.
people, and
It
people
really
are
is.
suffering. Senator Warren is right. This is cruelty for money.
All right, here we go.
In order to break this, we're going to have to break the corporate stranglehold and solve both the tax and the negotiations.
The
That's
bill.
plan for 2 minutes. We need
The
to redo
guy is
Washington,
spending million on
D.C.
shitty television
and actually
advertisements.
take back the government from
The
corporations.
fucking corporate oligarch wants to rap to us all about standing up to corporations. This is the Democratic debate in a nutshell, folks. This is the Democratic platform in a nutshell.
Five Democratic
They
presidents
just,
couldn't
by the
get
way,
done. And that is
before
pass
the
Obamacare.
debate
It was a
started,
big
Tom
deal.
Perez, the chairperson of the DNC, bragged about how they had outraised Donald Trump by over 1 million or something, right? Which is how that's supposed to indicate victory. I don't know, when in 2016 they had like 7 times the funding of Donald Trump and still fucking lost. But it's like, where do you think that money comes from? Fucking Cub Scouts? It comes from Microsoft. It comes from fucking Facebook and goddamn Google. The corporations that want more regulations because it keeps up-and-coming corporations from ever rising to challenge them. That's why big corporations love regulation. They don't hate it. They don't oppose it. They might oppose, like, a new tax or something. They might oppose, you know, because they don't want to pay it or some such. But usually major corporations are all about new regulations. That's why they support the Democratic Party overwhelmingly.
A decade ago.
It keeps new companies from ever becoming the next
For
Facebook.
the creation of a government-run drug manufacturer that would step in if there is a drug shortage or a price spike. Why does it make sense for the government to manufacture drugs, especially when public trust in
Wolf,
government
they're
is
so
near
poor and
historic
so
lows?
black,
So
Blitzer.
let's do this both ways. What I also
If you
said
haven't
is
seen
I'm
that
just
clip, by
gonna
the way,
use
on
power
YouTube, you have to
that is
look it up.
available, and I will
Wolf
do what a
Blitzer
president can
covering
do all by
Hurricane
himself
Katrina.
on the very first day, and that is lower the prices
Saying
of
the
certain
victims are
prescription
so
drugs.
poor and
I
so
will lower
black.
the price of insulin. We already have the legal authority with the president to do that. President just hasn't picked up and used it. I will lower the price of EpiPens, of HIV/AIDS drugs. That's going to bring a lot of relief to a lot of families.
Sure.
immediately. But you know, there are a whole lot of drugs, about 90% of drugs, that are not under patent. They're generic drugs.
She's
But the
talking
drug
about price
industry
controls
has
now.
figured out
Just
how to
FYI.
manipulate this industry to keep
'Cause that
jerking
always
the
works.
prices up and up and up. So my view is,
By the way,
let's give them a little
fucking
competition. The
every
government wants
socialist
contracts
country,
for all kinds of
including
things.
derivatives of
They like
socialism,
contracts to
like
build
communist
buildings. They like
countries
contracts
and
to build
fascist
military
countries.
weapons. Let's let
Hitler's
the
Germany
contracts
famously
out,
was
put
really
the
big on
contracts
price
out,
controls
so that we can
and
put more
and so forth.
generic
This isn't
drugs
me
out
comparing
there
it to
and
Nazi
drive
Germany,
down
but you
those
understand,
prices.
like,
This is a
it
way
necessarily
to
creates the need
markets
for
work,
more
not to
controls
try
and
to
more
move
oversight.
away from the
It
market.
means you
don't have
wind
to
up
even
with
use
these
price control.
industrial
The whole
czars
idea
who are
behind
setting
it
quotas
is
and
get
so
some
forth. It turns into a
competition out
gigantic
there
goat
so
fuck.
the
You can't
price
just
of these
say,
drugs
I'm going to
that are
lower
no
the
longer
price
under
of
patent drop
fucking
switch.
insulin pens
Senator
and shit
Klobuchar, do you believe
without
the
the
government
need for
should be
this regulation,
manufacturing
if
drugs?
not
I
outright,
am
then
open
down
to
the
looking
line.
at it, but I would
Unfortunately.
try these things first. Number one, I mentioned the Medicare negotiation. Number two, I have a plan, 137 things I found that a president can do herself in the first 100 days without Congress that are legal. And one of those things is that you can start bringing in less expensive.
Why are we
drugs from other
subsidizing
countries.
HIV and
Bernie
AIDS?
and I had
Honestly,
an amendment on this.
if we
got
were going to
14
subsidize
Republican
anything, we should
votes on it.
subsidize
It was at
research for a
midnight. They
cure,
might have
which I
not
think
known
we
what
are
they
to
were
a
voting
degree.
for, but we got that.
And there's a new
I
trial now that
have
was
an actual
proven
bill with
effective on
Senator
monkeys.
Grassley that does that.
Hopefully
And I
that
have
leads
bill
to a cure
get
down
out
the
what,
road, or if nothing else, a
Elizabeth was
vaccine.
talking
But
about, which is to stop generics from taking money from big.
But honestly, I don't see why the
pharmaceuticals
government
to keep
should
their
be funding
products
any of
off the
that
market.
personally,
The issue
because there's
here
so many
is that
millions
there
that are spent
two
on
pharma
HIV and
lobbyists
AIDS.
for every
I
member
say this
of
as someone who
Congress.
volunteered with
They
a
think they own
HIV
Washington, they
AIDS
don't own me.
volunteer
Thank you,
As
Senator
organization
president, I will get this
in San
done.
Francisco.
We're going to turn now to child care, a huge expense for many new families and a problem that's especially acute in rural Iowa. We have another question from an Iowa Democratic voter. Mayor Buttigieg, this is for you.
Yeah.
Tiffany from
Iowa
Cleveland.
is going to be the
As a
great
young
purge.
mom, I had to
That's
quit a
really
job I
when
loved
this
because
field is going to
childcare
narrow
costs were
out,
taking
and you're
up
probably going to
2/3
have
of my
multiple
income.
dropouts at that
Many
point.
families don't have the option of quitting a job because
By the
that
way,
would
I
have
am
been
0
an
for
income
3
escape.
on my dropping
That
out
leads to
next
families
predictions.
using whatever care they can
I
find.
predicted
And sometimes the
Beto
results
immediately
are
before
deadly,
Beto
as we've
dropped
seen
out.
in
I
Iowa
predicted
over the last
Kamala
few
right before
years.
she dropped
How
out,
will
and then
you
I predicted
prioritize
Booker.
accessing quality,
Williamson
affordable
technically dropped
childcare
out in
in your
between
first
there, but
100 days in
I
office?
was talking major
It makes no
candidates.
sense
I wasn't.
for
She hadn't been
childcare
on a
to
debate
cost
stage in forever.
2/3 of somebody's income. We've got to drive it to 7% or below. And
How hilarious
0
is it?
for
The,
those families who are living
The
in
only gay
poverty.
candidate on
This is happening
stage
to
is
folks
from
at
South
every
Bend. I'm
level
just
of the income spectrum. Meet professionals who sometimes say that they're working in order to be able to afford
sorry.
childcare,
Sometimes
in
I'm
order to
mentally
be able
12 years
to
old.
be
I
working.
apologize.
It makes no sense, and it must change, and we shouldn't be afraid to put federal dollars into making that a reality. Subsidizing childcare and making sure that we're building up a workforce of people who are paid at a decent level. To
Yeah,
offer
Williamson
early
was the crystal
childhood
ball lady.
education,
She was. I called her
as well as
Starshine
childcare
Moonbeam.
writ large. We can do that. And until we do, this will be one of the biggest drivers of the gender pay gap. Because when somebody like the voter asking the question,
I don't want to hear
has
about
step
women
out
and
of the
drivers
workforce
ever again. I don't want
because
to.
of that reason.
I've been to
She is
California too many
disadvantaged when she
times.
comes back in, and that can affect
I
her
kid.
pay for the rest of her career.
I kid, but
Senator
not really.
Warren, your education plan includes tuition-free public college for
We
all.
can't elect
You
Warren.
impose
The
an
economy would
income
crash
for free childcare.
into the rear end of another
Government
economy.
plans cover everyone for public college, but not childcare and early learning.
No, actually, my plan is universal child care for everyone. It just has some people adding.
Not enough
a
people
small
talk about her
thing.
bad
But
plastic
understand
surgery. She
this
looks like
about
she
the plan.
is
I've been there.
quietly
I
sucking on a
remember
lemon.
When I was a
Because
young
getting
mom,
gradually
I had
and by
2
degrees
kids,
starting
and
to
I
look
had my
a little
first real
Pelosi-like.
University teaching job. It was hard work. I was excited.
That and
but
she
it was
has the
childcare
the
that
Uncle
really brought me
Leo
down. We
eyebrows
went
from
through
fucking
one childcare
Seinfeld.
after another, and it just didn't work.
Hello.
If I hadn't been saved by my Aunt B, I was ready to quit my job. And I think about how many women of my generation just got knocked off the track and never got back on. How many of my daughter's generation get knocked off the track
Didn't
and
she?
don't get back on?
Wasn't
How
she one of
many
the
moms and
politicians who
daddies
criticized
today are
fucking
getting
Miss
knocked
America?
off the
Like,
track and never get back on?
they shouldn't be judging
I have
appearance
2
and whatnot.
wealth tax
These are the
so that we
substantive
can
issues we
cover
were talking about
childcare
before
for
election
all
season
of
now.
our
Now we're
children
talking about the
and
real stuff.
Provide universal pre-K for every 3-year-old and 4-year-old in America, and stop exploiting the people who do this valuable work. Largely black and brown women. We can raise the wages of every child care worker and preschool teacher.
I
in
say this
America.
as a black
That's
and
an
brown woman.
investment in our babies. That's an investment in their mamas and their daddies, and it's an investment in our teachers and in our economy.
Senator Sanders, will your universal
need to
child
do.
care program be free for everyone regardless of income?
Yeah. Let me pick up on this child care thing. Every psychologist in the world knows 0 through 4 are the most important years of human life, intellectually and emotionally. And yet our current child care system is an embarrassment. It is
Child care
unaffordable.
system.
Child care workers are making wages lower than McDonald's workers. We need to fundamentally change priorities in America.
This
We
is
should not
code
be
for
one of the
minimum
few
wage
countries that does not have
increases.
universal, high quality.
It's not very good
affordable
code
child
either.
care.
They're pretty much coming
We should
right
not
out with
be
it.
one of the only major countries not to guarantee health care to all people as a human right. We should not be spending more than the 10 next countries on
Private
the
industry is a human right,
hundreds of
folks. You
billions
heard
of
it here
dollars in
first.
Subsidies for the fossil fuel industry, tax breaks for billionaires, and then tell the moms and dads in this country we
Thank you,
cannot have
Senator.
high
Vice
quality,
President
affordable.
Biden.
Bro, your
Vice
entire
President
debate is sponsored by billionaires.
Infant care
What the
is more
fuck? There are
expensive than
billion.
in-state public college tuition.
There are at
in
least
more than half the
millionaires
country.
asking the
Do you
questions.
support free universal infant care?
There should be free universal infant care, but here's the deal. You know, I was a single parent too. When my wife and daughter were killed
In
my
the
2
late
boys I had to raise,
Cretaceous.
I was a senator, a young senator. I just hadn't been sworn in yet.
Yeah.
And I was making 42.
I think it was right after we bought our first Triceratops. I think.
Every day to Wilmington, Delaware, over 500 miles a day. 250 miles a day, because I could not afford.
He forgot what a
for my
mile
family
is, folks.
Childcare. It was beyond my reach to be able to do it, and that's why there's several things we do. When I triple the amount of money for Title I schools, every child 3, 4, and 5 years old will, in fact, have full schooling. They'll go to school.
Oh
and
my
after-school
God.
programs, which will release some of the burden. Secondly, I think we should have an $8,000 tax credit, which would put 7 million women back to work. They could afford to go to work and still care for their children.
Yay, more
There's an
tax
$8,000
credits.
tax credit. I also
More
believe
tax
that we
credits
should
for women.
invest
I'm sure that will
for
have
people who,
no
in fact,
adverse
are not
effect
able
on the
to
rising
afford
divorce
any
rate.
infant
At
care
all.
to
No,
be able to get that
not
care.
at all.
But Bernie's right. We have to raise the salaries of the
Seems
people
that
who are
divorce
doing
rate
the care.
skyrocketed
And I
immediately
provide for
after
that as
we
well.
gave
My
tax
time
breaks
is up,
for
I know, but
people
I'm not
getting
gonna
married.
go over
It's
like
funny
everybody.
how that
Mayor
works.
Buttigieg. Mayor Buttigieg, higher education is another.
And this
huge
is something a lot of Republicans
You
talk
oppose
about, by the
free
way.
public
I mean,
college
this
for
is
all
not a
because you don't
unique
want to make it, quote,
talking
free
point
for
to the
kids of
Democrats. This
millionaires.
is
But lots
a
of
Republican
public
thing.
services are available
Proof
for
in
the kids of
practice,
rich
folks. The
people,
only
like
time Republicans
libraries
and
public
Democrats
schools.
link hands
Why
is
do
when
you
they're
draw the
giving you an
line at public
airtight from
colleges
either
and
fucking side.
universities?
Well, it's simple. We expect and hope for everyone to get through 12th grade. It's not the same for college. Now, again, I don't want cost ever to be a barrier to somebody seeking to attend college. And under my plan,
Oh,
it
Christ.
won't be. Matter of fact, for the first 80% of Americans.
I mean, who's going to avail themselves of it? College is fucking useless at this point.
But if you're
People are getting out of college with fucking masters in finance and working at goddamn Burger King. Like, what the fuck are you?
I just need you to go ahead and pay that tuition, because we could be using those dollars for something else.
I mean, I know
a
people
very
with
real
law
choice
degrees
about what we do with
that are
every
dependent
single
on their
taxpayer
significant
dollar
other
that we
for
raise.
income.
And we
Like,
need to be using that.
This is
to
the
support
economy in
everybody,
fucking
whether you go to
2020.
college
This is
or
what a
not.
college degree
Making
does
sure
now.
that Americans can thrive,
And these
investing
fucking
in infrastructure,
fucking
and
assholes, I'll tell
something
you
that
exactly
hasn't
why
come
they're
up
concerned
very
about
much
college.
tonight, but does-
Because that's how they inculcate the public to their dog shit Bolshevik ideology. That's why they're concerned about college. It is a method of imparting didactic leftist dogma to an entirely new generation of people. And as they lose their grip on the youth of America, they have to ensure that somehow they're going to have some kind of contingency plan for that. So making college completely free for everyone is, I mean, at that point, it's like, they've wanted to do it for a long time. It's the same thing they did with public school system, right?
So look, the way I think we need to do this is
I
we
mean,
need
what
a
was that
wealth
poll
tax in
recently that
America.
said like
We need to ask people with fortunes above
70
$50
to
million
80% or
pay
something
more.
of all
And that
teachers
means
are
that the
left-wing or
lowest
Democrats or
millionaire
identify
that I
as
would
such.
tax under this wealth tax would be paying
Not a
about
coincidence.
$19 million in the first year in taxes. If he wants to send
And I'm
his
sure
kid to
you
public
guys could give any number of
university, then I'm
anecdotes
okay
about
with
being
that.
propagandized
Because
in
what
public
we really
school.
need to talk about
I
is the
certainly
bigger
could.
economic picture here. We need to be willing to put a wealth
And I'm in a red
tax
state.
in place, to ask those giant corporations that are not paying to pay, because that's how we build an economy, and for those who want to talk about it, bring down the national debt. We do universal child care. You've got a lot of mamas who can go to work, a lot of mamas who can finish their education. We make that investment.
Brings-
Universal college. We've
The
got
lady
a
who just
Senator.
proposed like
Senator
$100 trillion healthcare
I appreciate your
plan.
thoughts, Elizabeth, but I want to step back. I
He wants to
actually
talk
think,
to us all about
that
lowering
some
the
of our
national
colleagues who want
debt.
Free college for all.
Holy
aren't actually
fucking
thinking
shit.
Big enough. I think what we have to
Does your
look at
plan
is
involve
how
a
we connect our
fucking limbo
education
stick?
system
How are you
with
planning
our
on
economy.
lowering the goddamn
Where are our
national
job
debt?
openings and what do we need?
Holy
we are going to have
dicks.
over 1 million openings for home health care workers that we don't know how to fill in the next 10 years. We are going to have open 100,000 jobs.
Like, I nearly
for nursing
slapped my
assistants.
knee
We,
off
as my
on that one.
union
That was
friends know, we're
great.
going to have over 70,000 openings for electricians.
Fucking
We're not gonna
hell.
Have a shortage of MBAs.
While you're talking about free college, why don't you talk about free clown college? Shit.
Where should our money go? It should go into K through 12. It should go into free 1- and 2-year degrees, like my dad got, like my sister got.
Thank you,
and
Senator
then we should
Klobuchar.
double the Pell Grants because we're going to need 4-year
Thank you,
degrees.
Senator
So the
Klobuchar.
money
Mr.
goes
Steyer?
where it should go instead of to rich.
You
people
talk for
going
an
to
hour and a
Brussels.
half about how it's a totally new world and a totally new
children have been
economy and the
entitled to
economy
free
can't be
public college.
salvaged, and then you want to
No.
to use a
And
standard
let me say
from the
this.
fucking
I was one of the
70s or
people who
60s
talked
where your
about a wealth
dad
tax
got
a year-
educated.
almost a year and a half ago.
Fuck.
I
Like
believe
that-
that the
like a
income
solution from
inequality in this
1953
country
is gonna be
is
applicable in
unbearable, unjust,
2020.
and unsupportable. And the redistribution of wealth
fucking
to the
poke
richest
twat.
Americans from everyone else has to end. And I proposed a wealth tax almost a year and a half ago to start to address it and to raise some of the money that we need. But I want to go beyond this and go back to this question about education, because we're talking a lot about college. But in fact, if you talk about the Poor People's Campaign, you have to realize that for the youngest kids, they are getting an education that's relevant
the
to
philanthropic
taxes
billionaire.
in their neighborhoods. We need to
Why don't you check out
redistribute
that
money
list,
so
by the way,
every
of all
kid
the
has a chance.
philanthropic
So we're not
billionaires that were
legislating
connected to Jeffrey
inequality for the
Epstein that
next
came out after
generation.
he
And so we actually invest
committed
in every single
suicide.
kid, specifically poor kids, specifically black kids.
As I said earlier
We need to
yesterday
start
or whatever the
using money
fuck, the
dramatically
only guy
more
surprised by
for
Jeffrey
tax.
Epstein's
We'll be
suicide
back
was
with
Jeffrey
more
Epstein.
From CNN's Democratic presidential debate live from Des Moines, Iowa.
Okay, I pray to the 9 divines we're getting near the end of this. Holy fucking shit. These are usually... let's hope this is 2 hours. Let's hope it's not 3. Holy God. This is rough. Let's get through. Okay. Bada bada boo! Yeah, offering free shit is essentially viable. I mean, look, this is why Democrats having overwhelming control of major urban centers is a conflict of interest, because they can just keep promising free shit locally and keep the local citizenry essentially in line. It's essentially in direct subversion of the reason the Electoral College was created. It's why it was imposed, because even in the 1700s, it was already apparent that certain politicians, if they knew that there was more population in a given city than there was in another, out in the outlying areas, they would simply concentrate on those major cities and ignore the lesser ones. And if you don't think that's a legitimate concern, why don't you turn your attention to California, where essentially all a politician on a statewide level has to do is campaign in LA, Sacramento, San Diego, and San Francisco. They don't have to go anywhere else. In fact, some of them could probably get away with just campaigning in LA and still get fucking elected. And sometimes they do that, right? I'm sure that's what the founding fathers fucking intended, right? I'm sure. All right, let's get to super chats. Hold on a sec. Okay. Klobuchar. No, I already read that one. The Flying Templar, $5 say that Biden will not gaffe and Bernie won't mention climate change the very first time he's called on. I'm paying up because I'll lose. You did lose, my friend. You lost hard. Not as hard as the American people, though. Ancient Strawman, let's get this shit show on the road. Godspeed, sir. Primarch Vulcan, did you see the Project Veritas expose on Bernie's campaign office out of Iowa? I did, in fact, see, or I saw a clip of it. I retweeted it. I haven't seen the full fucking thing. I need to sit down and watch that. Maybe we'll do that after the debate is over. I'll just play that for all of you who haven't seen it yet. And we can weep at the state of our country for a moment. But I did see the clip where the guy basically said we're going to beat cops. Which isn't, I'll tell you why that's not a good look. Does anybody remember in 2016 during the primaries when that Bernie rally turned into a giant riot? There was like a Bernie counter protest to Trump speaking in Chicago, and it turned into a giant fucking riot, and there was tens of thousands of dollars in fucking property damage. And anybody fucking remember that? Not a good look now that this video is out there. Because it really, it starts to look a little bit more like it was planned from the beginning. And that's not good. That's not good. Not to mention that in the fucking Bernie, was he like a campaign advisor, or not a campaign advisor, but a campaign organizer who, just went ahead and shot some Republican congressman in a baseball game. You know, as you do. Who hasn't tripped and fallen and shot a bunch of Republican congressmen? I mean, really. Demasta012. Green Day's politics are as dynamic as their chords. Okay. Bane Trump. Razor, what is a good source to show Soleimani was not an official general? Well, I mean, his official title was as a part of the essentially the Ayatollah's military force. So it's right there in his fucking title. It's right there. It's just that journalistic organizations are just calling him a general. He was a general in that force, but he wasn't a general in the official Iranian military. Because you have to understand, the way Iran is set up, it's kind of like a triumvirate. It's the figurehead fucking president, it's the Ayatollah, and it's the military. And those three branches are always vying for control. And there are, of course, sub-branches within that. Like, there's the mullahs, who are actually, it's actually considered a bit of a pejorative in Iran to be a mullah, and so forth. It's, there's lots of little intricacies therein, but basically it's the military and the Ayatollah who are constantly warring with each other. And the figurehead president is sandwiched in between. One of the reasons Ahmadinejad was such a shitbag was because he was trying to get a little bit more power for the presidency, I think, and failed fucking hard.
The third trial of a U.S. president.
But here we go.
The Republican-led Senate has signaled that it is likely
more shit sandwich. Biden, folks.
Vice
Biden.
President Biden, if you're the nominee, is it going to be harder to run against President Trump if he's been acquitted and able to claim vindication, especially after what he said about your family?
It's irrelevant.
Said?
No
I mean,
no choice but for Nancy Pelosi and the House to move. He has, in fact.
Incidentally, did you guys notice Hunter Biden was conspicuously absent from Joe Biden's Christmas card photo? Anybody remember that? He posted it on his fucking social media.
I say we have to unite the country.
His
it's going to be
son.
harder. after this trial.
And that was
it may
shortly
be.
after Hunter Biden was
You
like
know,
photographed
I
with some
understand
chick,
how these guys are, this
and he
Republican
looked
Party.
like
They've gone after
fat
Sanders,
and
my
out of
Biden's
it, and
son, gone
she
after
looked
me,
like she was
told
holding him up.
lies that your networks and others won't even carry on television because they're flat out lies. And
sure.
I did my job. The question is
Kiddo.
whether or not he did his job, and he hasn't done his job.
buddy.
So it doesn't really matter whether or not he's gone after me. I've got to be in a position that I think
Gone
about the
after
American
you.
people. I can't hold a grudge.
These allegations predate Trump. They predate him even being a president. The fuck? And you're the one who copped to him on national television.
By me this next time.
Senator Klobuchar, you're going to be a juror in the trial. In the
By the way, the allegations did their damage. I mentioned at the time, it doesn't matter. All that matters is the appearance of impropriety. It's all about optics. It's a general election. It's all about widespread general optics. And the look of Biden defending himself against these allegations, it simply doesn't look good. It doesn't really matter if it's factual or not, unfortunately.
Witnesses, they may as well give the president a crown.
And it puts him on the
scepter.
defensive constantly.
They
And
may
his
as well make
poll
him
numbers
king.
have never been the
And
same
last time
since
I
these
checked,
allegations.
our country was
Did I not
founded on
say
this
that would be
idea
the case?
That we didn't want to be ruled by
He
a
has
king.
not been in the
And I think
firm
best
front-runner
way to
position
think about
since
this
that came
trial
up.
and what we're
That was the
facing
goal of it.
In this election is a story
Tell me again the
of a
4D
man
chess
from
thing is just a
Primgar,
meme.
Iowa. His name was Joseph Welch. He came from humble beginnings, the son of immigrants. He became the Army Counsel. And he
More
was the one that
anecdotes!
went to the Joseph McCarthy hearings. And when McCarthy was
McCarthy did
blacklisting
nothing
people and
wrong.
going after
Reminder.
people because of their
The guy who was
political
originally
beliefs or
accused by
supposed
Joe McCarthy
political
came
beliefs,
out
there was
and
only one
fucking
man.
admitted.
Everyone
Well,
else
actually, he
was
didn't
afraid.
admit.
They were afraid
It
of
came
being
out after
blacklisted.
Perestroika that he was
Joseph
actually a
Welch,
Soviet
he stood
agent
up
and had been
looked
paid
at
millions of
McCarthy
dollars
and
to be
said,
one.
Have you no sense
FY
of
fucking I.
decency, sir? Have you no sense of decency? This is a decency check on our government. This is a
Defending
patriotism
commies on a
check.
national
Not only
debate
is this
stage,
trial
ladies and
bad,
gentlemen,
but
the
also this
absolute
election. And
state
no matter if you
of the
agree with
Democratic
everyone
Party.
here on the stage, I say this to
Holy
Americans,
fuck.
you know this is a decency check on this president.
Mr. Steyer, you've spent millions and millions of dollars telling the American people that President Trump deserves to be impeached. Will it have been worth it?
Ooh,
if
that
he's
was a
been
rough.
impeached,
If you know
but
anything
not
about
removed
history,
from
that was a.
office?
Ooh,
Well, Wolf, actually what I've done.
that was a career
is to
killer
organize a
moment for
petition drive
Klobuchar.
Of 8.5 million Americans.
Most people don't
to
know the
sign
history, though, in
and say
her
this
defense.
president deserves to be impeached and removed from office. And those 8.5 million people have called their Congress.
And this is what I'm
emailed
talking
their
about,
Congress
actually. They
people,
just
and have
referenced
actually
it.
dragged
Tom Steyer's
Washington,
ads are not about Tom Steyer. They're about Donald Trump. I truly believe the only reason he's still in this race is to run those ads. It's to keep a full court press on Trump while everyone on the Democratic stage is tearing each other's throats out. I really think that's why he's on this stage. And I think that's why they skewed the rules to keep him on the debate stage.
televised hearings so we can decide.
Because otherwise he would have dropped out
for
already.
ourselves.
There's no point.
If
But he's
you think
independently
that that
wealthy.
isn't
He's
worth
in
it, then
a
you
perfect
don't share
position to
the
do
idea
that.
That I do about what the America's about.
Fuck me.
Standing up for what's right is always worth it, Wolf. And I will never back down from that.
Senator Warren. The Senate
My
trial
favorite
is
part of that
expected
was
to
when he
keep
said
you in
wolf
Washington
while
in
he
the
was
weeks
staring at a
leading up
camera.
To the Iowa caucuses here. How big of a problem is that for you as you're making your closing pitch to voters here?
Look, some things are more important than politics. I took an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. It says that no one is above the law. That includes the president.
Except for
of
that
the
pesky
United
Second
States.
Amendment
We
shit.
have an
Fuck
impeachment
that.
Trial. I will be there because it is
Cut
my
that right out of the
responsibility.
document.
But understand
And that
this,
pesky
what
First
that
Amendment shit,
impeachment
too.
trial is
Gotta
going to
censor
show,
all online
once again, to the
discussion.
American
Gotta-
people, and
gotta
something
make
we
sure
should
that
be
happens.
talking about is the corruption of this administration. That's what lies at the heart of it. It is about Donald Trump putting Donald Trump first, not the American people, not the interests of the United States of America, not even in helping Ukraine defend against Russia. It is about
Bro, you're
him
running an impeachment
helping
proceeding
himself.
saying we have to
That
impeach
is
to
what
find out
we
why
need
we're
to
impeaching.
do to win
And you're
this
going to rap
election.
about
We need to draw that
corruption.
distinction and
Shit, why
show
don't you at least
that it's
prove your
Democrats,
allegations
we're not
first?
gonna be the
Like,
people
there actually
who are
it does
just
have to
out
be
for
a
the big
trial.
corporations,
Which,
people
by the
who
way,
wanna
anybody
help
else catch
themselves,
Pelosi
but
finally
we are
admitted
gonna be
defeat
the
on that
party
one,
is
and
willing
she's
to
going
fight
to
on the side of the people.
finally
That's
give the
why.
articles over to the
Let's
Senate,
turn now
where
to
it
the
will
climate
die a
crisis.
horrible,
Here in
withering
Iowa,
death.
parts of the state remain underwater after record-breaking
I'll say this too: if you have been donating to any Republican congressman, don't until they acquit. I mean, they will, obviously, but absolutely don't until that happens. Because what a fucking joke. What a waste of your tax dollars. Impeachment proceedings are fucking costly because these people get extra pay for fucking doing them.
Climate change has come to
fucking
America
joke.
from coast to coast. We're seeing it in Iowa. We've seen it in historic floods in my community. I had to activate our emergency operations center for a once-in-a-millennium flood. Then 2 years later, had to do the same thing. In Australia, there are literally
How do we go from impeachment to talking about fucking floods, dude?
Taking place. This is no longer theoretical. This is no longer off in the future. We have got to act, yes, to adapt, to make sure our communities are more resilient, to make sure our economy is ready for the consequences that are going to happen one way or the other. But
Oh,
we
okay, I
also
gotcha.
have to
That was the
ensure
question.
we don't allow this to get any worse. And if we get it right, farmers will be a huge part of the solution. We need to reach out to the very people who have sometimes been made to
Yeah,
feel
because
that accepting
Democratic
climate science
socialist
would be a
platforms of the
defeat for
past
them.
have been
Whether we're talking
sweepingly
about farmers
successful for
or
farmers.
industrial workers in my community, and
Not
make
even
clear that we need
Stalin
to
was able to
enlist them
nationalize the
in a
fucking
national
farmers.
project to do something
To
about
clarify.
Stalin was basically forced to institute capitalism in the countryside. He kept the communist bullshit in major cities, but he was basically forced to institute capitalism in the countryside because there was just no way to nationalize the farmers and still meet enough quotas so that his people wouldn't fucking starve and kick him out of office. I mean, there was just no way. How the fuck you're going to push sweeping healthcare reforms and all the communistic garbage that you're proposing
Thank you, Mayor Buttigieg. Mr. Steyer, what's your response?
and do anything
What you're
about fucking
talking
farmers?
about
I
is
have no
what's
idea.
called managed retreat. It's basically saying we're going to have to move things because this crisis is out of control and it's unbelievably expensive. And of course, we're going to come to the rescue of Americans who are in trouble. But this is why climate is my #1 priority.
Oh, boy.
And I'm still shocked that I'm the only person on this stage who will say this.
What?
I would declare a state of emergency on day 1 on climate. I would do it from the standpoint of environmental.
Two
and
people
make sure
clap.
we go to the black and brown communities where you can't breathe,
When
heal,
you-
or drink the
guys.
water that comes out of the tap safely. But I also know this.
When you are the most alarmist cunt on the stage on climate, and you make the most alarmist statement about climate change, and you can't muster more than 2 guys in a golf clap, does that not say a little something about how the climate change message is resonating in 2020? How it's lost a little bit of steam?
We're going to have to make the whole world come along with us, and it's going to have to be.
Steyer.
Guys, people remember
Mr. Steyer,
an
to
inconvenient truth. They can
clarify,
watch
you
it
say
any
you're the
time.
climate
It's on
change
demand.
candidate,
It's still
but you made your
available.
$1.6
If the Democrats were
billion
smart,
in
they'd
part
like
by investing in coal,
petition the
oil,
companies
and
that made an
gas.
inconvenient
So are
truth
you the
to
right
like
message
take it
on
off
this
of all these
topic?
services.
I
Because if
absolutely
you
am.
watch it now,
Look, we invested in
holy
every
shit, it's
part of the
aged like
economy,
Pelosi's
and
neck.
over 10 years ago, I realized that there
Still
was
waiting
something
on
going
Kilimanjaro
that
to
had
stop
do
having
with
snow.
fossil fuels
Anyway.
that we had to change. So I
Kilimanjaro
divested from
Glacier
fossil
actually
fuels.
gained
I took the
mass.
giving pledge
Yikes.
To give most of my money away while I'm alive. And for 12 years, I've been fighting the climate crisis. I've beat oil companies in terms of clean air laws. I've stopped fossil fuel plants.
Well, there's certainly a lot of hot air
California.
here, so I can agree on that
fought
point.
The Keystone Pipeline. I have a history of over a decade of leading the climate fight
Thank you, Mr.
successfully.
Steyer.
So actually, yes, I am the person here who has the chops and the history that says I'll make it priority 1 because I've been doing it for a long time.
Thank you, Mr. Steyer. Senator Warren.
How could a guy
President
named
Trump
after
is
one of the most
rolling back
kick-ass
major
Austrian
environmental rules
fucking
to allow
firearms
pipelines and other major
manufacturers be
infrastructure
such a
projects
cock?
to be built
How?
without strict environmental review?
I'd like to call
Will
him
you restore
Steyer,
those
but
protections and in
I
a
feel
way
bad.
that the next president can't overturn.
Yes.
if we had transitioned from him to Buttigieg, we could have gone from Steyer to Mannlicher. What?
Urgency of the moment
No,
cannot be
that's not-
overstated. I will do everything a president can do.
Little
all by herself
firearms
on the first
humor.
day. I will roll back the environmental changes that Donald Trump is putting in
All right.
place. I will stop all new drilling and mining on federal lands and offshore drilling. That'll help us get in the right directions. I'll bring in the farmers.
In
Farmers
your
can be part of the climate
direction.
solution. We should see this, though, for the problem it is. Mr. Steyer talks about it being problem
Oh, I
number
see
one.
plenty of problems on
Understand
this
this.
stage.
We have known about this climate
More
crisis
problems than a
for
fucking algebra
decades.
textbook.
Back in the 1990s, we were calling it global warming, but we knew what it was. Democrats
Back in the
and
1970s, we
Republicans
called it
back
global
then
cool.
were
I mean,
working
what?
together
Shit.
Because no one wanted a problem.
Change the subject.
You know what happened? The industry came in and said, we can make big money if we keep them divided and make no change. Priority number one.
Actually, the
has to be
corporations
taking
came
back
forward
our
and
government from the
pressured
corruption.
Obama
That
to
is
push the
only
Green
way
Jobs
we will make
Initiative, which I
progress
noticed nobody on the
climate,
stage has talked
on
about,
gun
where
safety,
all those
on
companies,
healthcare,
including fucking
on
Solyndra,
Senator
went out of
Warren,
business and cost us
Senator
all
Torres,
millions of dollars, contributing
some of your
greatly to the
competitors on
current
this
fucking
stage have
trillion-dollar
called for an
deficit.
all-out ban on fracking. You haven't. Why not?
Corporations are all
Well,
about
first of all, I
green
would note
bullshit
that I have
because the
100%
regulations are impossible
rating
for their
from the League of
competition to
Conservation
meet.
Voters, and that is
They
because
love
I
that
have
kind of
stood
shit.
tall on every issue that we have talked about up here.
They
when
don't
it
want
comes to
competition,
this
folks.
administration, this Trump administration.
Nobody wants a free
trying
market
to
less
reverse,
than a multinational
environmental
conglomerate.
protections. I think it is going to lead to so many problems, and one thing that hasn't been raised, by the way, is the rules on methane, which is actually one of the most environmentally dangerous hazards that they have recently embarked on. And I would bring those rules back, as well as a number of other
yeah,
things.
you too,
when it
Meg.
comes to the issue of fracking, I actually see natural
Frack-
gas as
the
a
word
transition
fracking still
fuel.
makes me laugh. I
It's
apologize.
a transition fuel to where we get to carbon neutral. Nearly every one of us has a plan that is very
Fracking
similar,
sounds
and
like a
that is to
made-up
mission
swear word
carbon
from
neutral
2000
by
AD or something.
2045 to 2050 to get to, by 2030, to a 45% reduction. And I want to add one thing that no one's really answered. When we do this, we have to make sure that we make people whole. And when we put a tax on carbon, which we will do either through
Got a bone.
cap and trade or through a renewable electricity standard or through a fee on carbon,
Senator
then we have to
Klobuchar.
make
I
sure
wanna
the
let
money
Senator
goes back to
Sanders
the
into this
people that will
conversation.
be hurt by it.
Thank
to
you,
help them with
Senator
their energy
Klobuchar.
bills
How
and
can
to
you
bring
be
jobs to
for
areas that will lose
trees,
jobs.
Senator Sanders.
but against carbon, the thing that they breathe?
Let's be clear.
Still having trouble
If we,
resolving
as a
those
nation,
two
do
statements.
not transform our energy system away from fossil fuel.
It's like
not
a
by
world without
2050,
carbon.
Not by
would be
2040.
pretty
but unless
rough
we
for the
leave
trees.
The world right now, not easy stuff. The planet we are leaving our kids will be uninhabitable and unhealthy. We're seeing Australia burning.
It's easy for him to say it. He won't be alive to
The
see whether or
drought
not
here in
his
Iowa
bullshit
is
is
gonna make it
exposed,
hard for
which it
farmers
will be.
to produce the food that we need. This is, of course, a national crisis.
Old
I
man
use this
yells at
legislation
pollution cloud.
to indicate it's a national crisis. We have got to take on the fossil fuel industry and all of our lives.
Those
And
fossil
tell them
fuels are made
that
out of my
short-term
friends.
profits are not more important than
They
the
have no
future
right
of
raiding
this
those
planet.
puppets.
That's what the Green New Deal does. That's what my
friend
legislation
Chaim.
does, and that is what we have to do.
Vice President Biden, your response.
My response is back in 1986, I introduced the first climate change bill, and check PolitiFacts. They said it was a game changer. I've been saying this for a long time. I headed up the Recovery Act, which put more money.
Anybody
into
remember?
fossil
Holy
fuel-
shit!
moving away from fossil fuels
Holy
to
PolitiFacts!
wind energy than ever has occurred in the history of America.
Beyond the
What we
fact that
have
it's
to do
called
is we have to act
PolitiFact,
right away. The way
does
we act right
anybody
away is
remember
immediately
when
upon
Ted
elected
Cruz
president,
called
I'll reinstate
PolitiFact
all the
essentially the
moral
marketing wing of the
standards
Democratic
that existed
Party?
in our
Anybody
administration,
remember it?
which were taking
Anybody
down
remember
this
him
12
getting
billion gallons of
roundly
gasoline,
mocked
or
for
barrels
it?
of gasoline
Biden
saved
just
immediately.
name-checked him.
And with regard to those folks
For
who, in fact,
shilling
are
his fucking
gonna be
campaign.
victimized by what's
That's
already
brilliant.
happened, we should be investing in
That's fucking
infrastructure
brilliant. They
that
tell
raises
on themselves,
roads, make
folks.
sure that
You
we're
just
in a
give them
position
enough
where
time and they
we have-
eventually
that
tell on
every new
themselves.
highway built is a green highway, after 550,000
Wow.
charging stations. We can create, and this is where I agree with Tom, we can create millions of good-paying jobs. We're the only country in the world that's ever taken great crisis and turned it into great opportunity. And one of the ways to do it
they
is
name
with
check
the
Snopes,
farmers
I'm gonna
here in
shit.
Iowa by making them the first group in the world to get to net
Did-
zero emissions
did-
by paying them for planting and absorbing.
Did Biden
carbon
grow
in
out
their
his hair
fields
plugs?
Right away. There's more to say, but I know it's
A key part of your mission in this.
Sorry, I know that's
is for you
random,
to
but is
prove to
anybody
Democratic
noticing that?
voters
He's
that
got
you're
like a...
strong enough to take on Donald Trump. Each of you face unique challenges in doing that. Mayor Buttigieg, you say you've had trouble earning the support of black voters because you're unknown, but you've been campaigning for a year now, and polling shows you with next to no black support that you'll need in order to beat Donald Trump. Is it possible that black voters have gotten to know you and have simply
Of course they
decided
asked the
to
black
choose
chick to
another
ask this
candidate?
question.
The black voters who know me best are supporting me. It's why I have the most support in South Bend. It's why among elected black
Deontay,
officials in my
Bonquiqui,
community who have gotten into
Phil
this
Lamar.
race, by far most of them are supporting me. And now, nationally, I am proud that my campaign is co-chaired
I mean, the dude's
by
from
a member of the
Indiana.
Congressional Black
He's got to have
Caucus and
some
have
black
support
support.
right here in Iowa. From
They
some
do
of
have
the most
Gary, for
recognizable
fuck's sake.
Black elected leaders, from Mayor Hart of Waterloo to former Representative Barry in Black Hawk County. Now, the biggest mistake we could make is
They have
to
a
take
Black Hawk
black votes
County?
for
Seriously?
granted, and I never will. The reason I have the support I do is not because
Over in
any
Black
voter
Hawk
thinks
County, my
that I'm
favorite
perfect.
county in the world.
Because of the work that we have done facing some of the
A
toughest
vibrant,
issues that our
throbbing
communities
county.
face,
I mean,
not from the luxury of a debate or a television panel or a committee room, but on the ground. Issues from poverty to justice in policing. And I'm proud to say we've been nationally recognized for our work as a race-informed city on delivering greater
Biden can win this
economic
whole
justice.
thing by
We've
announcing his
reduced
VP
use
running
of
mate
force
will be
by
Corn
leading
Pop.
the region in
He
transparency.
can win this whole, he's got it all in the
Around the use of
bag.
force in policing. Of course, there is a much longer way to go in my community and around the country. But I will be a president whose personal commitment is to continue doing this work.
Senator Sanders, you call yourself a democratic socialist, but more than 2/3 of voters say they are not enthusiastic about voting for a socialist. Does it affect your chances of beating Donald Trump?
Not at all. And that
Why would they
is
think that? Just because
the
Venezuela went
campaign
down in
that
fucking
we are gonna
flames.
run will expose the
Expose.
fraudulency
Ooh, we had a
of
little
who
Bernie
Donald Trump
Biden
is.
moment there.
Donald Trump is corrupt, he is a pathological liar, and he is a fraud. Now, when Trump
What does that have
talks
to do
about
with socialism being shit?
What he talks about is giving hundreds of billions of dollars in tax breaks and subsidies to the fossil fuel industry. Donald Trump is a businessman.
Bro,
$800 million.
You're on
in
stage
tax
with
breaks
somebody who has a
and
stake in
subsidies
fossil
to
fuels.
build
What the fuck are you
luxury
talking
housing.
about?
My democratic socialism says healthcare is a human right. We're going to raise the
This is
minimum
now like
wage
the
to
fourth time he
$15
said
an
healthcare is a
hour.
human right.
We're going to make public colleges and universities tuition free.
It ain't,
We're gonna
homie.
have a Green
I don't
New
remember it
Deal
being in the
and create
Constitution.
up to $20 million saving the planet for our children.
I
and
do
our
remember
grandchildren.
some shit
We are
about
gonna take on
the
the
right to
greed
bear arms
and
being a
corruption of the
inalienable
pharmaceutical
right.
industry and the insurance company.
Something like
That is
that.
what democratic socialism is about, and that will win this election.
Mr. Steyer, you've spent more than $100 million of your own dollars on television ads. How do you convince voters that
I
you're more
believe
than
it, man.
just your
Every
money?
fucking second.
Look, we know
That shit airs more than
Donald Trump is
Raymond
gonna run for
reruns.
president. He's going to run on the economy. He's already told Americans last month in Florida, you don't like me and I don't like you, but you're all going to vote for me because the Democrats are going to destroy the economy in 15 minutes if they get in control. So let's be clear.
Bro, how are you
I
going
started
to say a
business
fucking
by
thing
myself
about
in
this
one
economy?
year.
I'm sorry.
I
Like, even if you
inherited
think it's
a penny from my
temporary and what, I
parents.
mean, obviously
spent
all rubber
30
bands
years
eventually
building
snap
that
in the
business
opposite
into a
direction, but fucking hell,
multi-billion-dollar
3%
international
unemployment?
business.
How are you going to run on
And I
the
walked
fucking
away from
economy
it and
against
took
this
the Giving
president?
Pledge and
If I'm a
started
Democrat, I
organizing
am shutting the
coalitions
fuck
with
up
ordinary
about the
Americans to
economy
take
and
on
running on
unchecked
anything
power.
the fuck
But
else.
whoever is
Seriously.
is going to have to beat him on the economy, and I have the experience and the expertise to show that he's a fake there and a fraud. Look, Mayor Pete has 3 years as an analyst at McKinsey. I have 30 years of international business experience. I can beat Trump on the economy. We're gonna have to beat him on the economy, and I look forward to taking him down in the fall on the debate stage.
Mayor Buttigieg.
You demoted me. I was actually an associate, but that's okay. It was not the biggest part of my career, but I am ready to take on this president on the economy because I am from the exact kind of industrial Midwestern community that he pretends to speak to and has proven to turn his back on. And
Bro,
guided that
if
community
the
through a
president is
historic
pretending to
transformation
speak
when
to
at
your
the beginning of the
constituency,
decade,
that's
I took
still
all
more
the
than
good
you're
strides of
doing,
dying
which is not
I'm ready
speaking
take
to
on
them
Donald
at
Trump
all.
because when he gets
Do you
to
get
the tough
that?
talk
Do you get that's
and the
why you
chest
lost in
bumping, he'll have to
2016 and
stand
why you're
next to
still
an American
losing
war
now?
veteran and explain how he pretended
Holy
Goldsberg made
shit.
him ineligible to serve. And
Like, they
and he
still
keeps
don't
trying
get
to use
it.
religion,
They legitimately
if
don't
a
get
guy
it.
like Donald Trump keeps trying to use religion to somehow recruit Christianity into the GOP, I will be standing there not afraid to talk about a different way to answer the call of faith and insist that God does not belong.
I will
to a
answer the
political
call of
party.
booty.
I am ready to take
Thank
on this
you.
president on every front.
Senator Klobuchar, Senator Klobuchar, you're pitching yourself as a
Senator
practical candidate who
Klobuchar,
can get
we're
things
still
done.
pretending
And
you're
even
in this
tonight,
race,
you
so what the
dismissed
hell?
Some of the ideas that are offered in this primary as pipe dreams. How are you going to inspire voters with a message of pragmatism?
Sorry, I just thought 3 mate one.
Our voters,
All right.
actually all Americans, have seen now a number of years of a guy that has, I think, told over 15,000 lies. He is someone that
This according
literally
to
has a
PolitiFact,
rap
I'm
sheet
sure.
of divisive rhetoric.
Say
And I
PolitiFact,
think
say
what
PolitiFact,
Americans
say
want
PolitiFact, say
is something
PolitiFact.
different. I am going to be able to stand across
Oh,
from him on that debate stage and
shit.
say to my friends in Iowa, the Midwest is not flyover country for me. I live here. I'm going to be able to look at him and say,
And
"You've
we're doing
treated
this by
these
drawing
workers and
12
farmers
people in a high
like
school
poker
auditorium
chips.
with our front
For
runner
me,
in the
these are
Midwest.
my friends, and these are
See, the
my
last
neighbors.
time fucking
I'm gonna
Biden
be
tried to
able look at
campaign
him
in the
and say,
Midwest.
You got $413 million
I saw more people
over
at a
the
fucking
course of your
elderly
career.
fucking
That's
bingo
how you
tournament.
built your fortune.
And
And what I'm
shit.
going to say is this. My grandpa worked 1,500 feet underground in the iron ore mine, saved money in a coffee
Your
can
support in the
basement
Midwest
to
is
send my
softer
dad
than
to a
Clay
two-year
Aiken at a
community
titty
college.
bar.
That's my family trust. And when you have been given an opportunity like that, you go into the world not with a sense of entitlement, Donald Trump, but with a sense
Thank
of
you.
obligation.
This is what happens when
Senator
you try
Warren,
and
what do you say to
script your
voters
witty
who like your
rejoinders.
policies, but they're worried they will scare away
Oof.
swing voters you need to win this race in November?
So I was born and raised in Oklahoma. I have 3 older brothers who are all retired, who are all back there still.
And then I moved to
And 2 of my 3
Massachusetts because that's the only
brothers
place
are
blue enough to
Republicans.
elect my
And
ass.
sure, there are a lot of things we disagree on, and we can take to our corners.
And this bitch is going to talk about
Democratic,
corruption,
Republican.
incidentally. You're from fucking Massachusetts. The Massachusetts state bird is an Oldsmobile in a fucking lake. Shit.
And
The state that
Amazon
gave us
that are
Chappaquiddick, you're
giant
gonna rap about
corporations
fucking
make
corruption.
billions of dollars in
Shh.
taxes, make billions of dollars in profits.
I wanna
and
knight
pay
the
nothing
brain
in
tumor that
taxes.
killed Ted
My brother said,
Kennedy.
I don't get this. I have to pay my taxes. Somebody has to keep the roads paved and the schools open and pay for our defense. They understand. that we
CNN is
have
all
America
about
right
Warren.
now that's working great for those at the top. It's just not working for anyone else. We have a chance to unite as Democrats, but also with independents and Republicans who are sick of living in a country that's working great for the politicians that are taking the money. It's working great for the lobbyists. It's working great for the corporate executives.
You know, all the people
It's
that donate
just
to
not
me.
working for everyone else. I'm building the
I mean, they
grassroots
tell me all the
movement,
time at
building
my
the fight for
fundraisers.
making
I mean,
this
it's
America
great for
work
them.
everyone
Fucking
else.
shit.
That is how we're going to beat Donald Trump.
Vice President Biden, the eventual nominee will face President Trump, who has no problem mocking people, using insulting nicknames, slinging mud, and telling lies. The debate against him
I
will
prefer to
make
mock
debates look
myself.
like child's play. Are you prepared for that?
I am prepared for that. Look, I've been the object of his affection now more than anybody else in this state. I've taken all the hits he can deliver, and I'm getting
Yeah,
better
most of
in
them
the
from
polls by
myself.
going up. And by the way, I have overwhelming support from the African American community. Overwhelming, more than everybody else in this operation, number one. Number
And I
two,
love my
working
corn
class
pop
people
Americans.
Where I come from in Pennsylvania and the places I come from in Delaware, I have great support. I have support across the board. And I'm
You
not
might say
worried
I'm a
about
Harlem
taking on Donald
Globetrotter.
Trump at all. And with regard to the economy, I can hardly wait to have that debate with him. Where I come from, the neighborhoods I come from, they're in real trouble. Working class people and middle class people. When the middle class does well, working class has a way up, and the wealthy do well. But what's
Can somebody
happening
say
now?
hands
They're
up,
being
don't
clobbered.
bullshit?
They're
Somebody?
being killed. They now have
No.
a situation where if the vast majority believe their children will never reach the stage that they've reached in economic security. I love that debate.
Anybody
because
else just
the American
quietly
public
suspect
is
this
getting
guy calls
clobbered.
them
The
shoeshine
wealthy,
Americans
everyone's
behind
doing
closed
well.
doors? Like, he's
Period.
old
I'm
enough.
looking forward to the economic
The
debate.
kind of shit that he said, like, on live mics, like with Obama, it was like, finally, a clean African American guy. Remember that? Does nobody remember that? Ugh. Holy shit. The left obsess about race because the left obsess about race the most. Hold on a sec. Let me get on down here. Okay. Let's see here. Sorry, we're way behind on super chats. Let me see here. I'm going to try and pronounce this. I apologize if I butcher it. Terje Samuelson, sorry. As always, fuck them, you were right, fuck them, you were right. Insert correct.gif here. I assume you're talking about my Iran video. By the way, suck my dick, I was right. Reckless Trucker, hello again, my sexually domineering lord. But enough about Cicero. The real Bambunga, Buttigieg... Buttigieg's healthcare plan name equals booty care. That'd be fantastic. I kind of want him to be elected just so I live in a world where that is a thing. Doc Crayon, spinning chair. Fuck you, Razor's right. Ike of Pike, evening. Off topic, but you see the news about Collins episode 9. Overall sounded better than the movies we got, but not great. Always been against the cell. Oh, yeah, I heard a little bit about that. I didn't hear any plot details, so I'd have to hear a little bit more. But I did hear about it a little bit on Twitter. Richard Head, Klobuchar has a Karen haircut. There, I said it. The real Bambunga again. Question. Why do they call the camel the ship of the desert? Answer. Because they're always filled with Arabian seamen. Cyprus. Literally thousands protested in Virginia against the first wave of gun control voting. In response, Dems replaced SB 16 with an even worse bill, House Bill 961, which is usually how they do. It's gonna be, they're gonna deal with this the same way they deal with it, because they're not letting this go, folks. The state of Virginia went bluer than Movie Bob's balls. They are not letting this gun control shit go. What they're gonna do is they are gonna watch the birdie, and while everybody's focusing over here, they're going to try and pass something else. 100%. You can already see on a local level what happened. There was a county in Virginia that was going to vote on becoming a Second Amendment sanctuary, as a lot of them have. And they, right at the beginning, like basically the pro-gun crowd marshaled all of their people. They got the word out on social media, and a fucking army showed up to this council, this random council meeting in the middle of the bumfucking nowhere. There are hundreds of people showed up to this fucking thing, all to speak their piece, because there's an open mic section. But there's only an open mic section, and they only open the mic to the public if they vote on the issue. So at the beginning of this council hearing, what do? Well, the councilman who is chairing the proceeding grabs the mic and says, at the outset, I'd like to say we're not going to be voting on anything regarding the Second Amendment. Does anyone want to talk about any other order of business? So basically, he shut it down. He delayed it to another session. Basically, they're trying to outlast them. They're trying to defer it. It's all watch the birdie and distraction, folks. This is how they're going to try and deal with this issue. They're going to try and tire you out. They're going to try and get you to stop giving a fuck. Never stop giving a fuck about your right to personal defense and the right to keep your government in check through the ownership of firearms. But I am not surprised by that at all. Matt J2217. Tom, who the hell is that Steyer? He actually gave himself that middle name. Kazbinus. Tom Steyer is basically a commercial break for the others. Michael Judge. The only candidate I see Dems liking is Tulsi. LOL. Well, and that's why she's not allowed on the stage. Ever since she took Kamala down. I mean, Kamala never recovered from that. Never. Ever since she took Kamala down, she has been persona non fucking grata. Because I think Kamala was supposed to be one. I think they were trying to maneuver Kamala to be one of the top 3. But she kept breaking into the box wine and fucking herself. And then Tulsi just took her completely out of the fucking running. As I said in my video about the Democratic debates from a couple months back. Composite Frylock in Booker voice. Bobby boy, do you know the way? Core Tenebrae, have you seen the level of butthurt on Twitter over how white the Democratic debates are? I have. All the minority candidates are off the stage, which pretty much tells you everybody's old and everybody's white. Everybody's old. Not Buttigieg so much, although he's still pretty fucking old. And he just looks a lot younger than he is. And Klobuchar, those are the only two real exceptions. Everybody's butt-fucking old on this stage. But let's go ahead and continue here.
It is about your
Oh, she's from Minnesota.
So if you want
That's
to
a regular utopia on Earth.
justice and immigration reform,
bring some more of that
climate
here.
change and gun safety, We need
See
a
her rap
candidate
about the
who is actually
Qatar
gonna bring
connection
people
with her
with
fellow
her.
congressperson
I have
Ilhan
won
Omar.
Every race, every place, every time. I have gotten the highest voter turnout in the country when I've led the ticket. I have passed more bills
What?
as the lead Democrat than
What?
anyone who's in Congress that's running for president. I believe that we need a president that's going to look out for you.
Oh, these are the closing
Easy to
statements.
hurl
Thank
insults.
Christ.
Easy to draw lines in the sand and sketch out grand ideological sketches that will
Bro,
never
if you
see
get
the
your
light
say on
of day.
education,
What
they
is
won't be
hard
able to
is
draw a
bringing
line in the
people
sand. They
together
won't know
and
what a line
finding common
is.
ground instead of scorched earth. What is hard is the work of governing. So if you are tired of the extremes in our politics and the noise and the nonsense, you have a home with me.
Advocates
Join me
universal
at
health care.
amyfrobashar.com.
Complains about
Mr.
extremes.
Steyer.
I know that Iowans are going to caucus within 3 weeks. And I want to tell you how I feel about the American people. Look, I played team sports my entire life. The bond between teammates is deep and emotional and full of love. And as far as I'm concerned, the American
Tom
people
Steyer's just
are my
happy
teammates.
for an actual
And if
excuse
there's
to
one
look at the
thing I will
camera.
not permit, it is someone to run
He's
down
like,
the field
finally,
and
Tom
take my team
Steyer's
benefits."
chance to shine.
And that is exactly what I've seen over the last 7 years, traveling around this country, seeing these Republicans led by Mr. Trump basically kicking the American people in the face. I am prepared to take on.
You get the
Mr.
people
Trump on
voted
the
for all
debate
those
stage
people,
and
right?
take him
Like,
down on the economy.
I'm just.
But I am asking for your support.
They say
because
they're not
I know
flyover
that if I'm-
states,
if
unless,
I'm
of
gonna
course,
be a
they're
good
red. Then
teammate
they're
to you and
flyover
give you
states. That's kind of how the
absolutely
logic
everything
goes
without any
there.
compromise. I need the support of you
Arizona,
on caucus
ick.
night
Oklahoma,
so I can turn
ick.
around and together we can take back.
Why do you
this
think
country,
Elizabeth Warren moved to
and together
fucking
we can save the
Massachusetts?
world.
Mayor Buttigieg.
This is our moment. This is our one shot to defeat Donald Trump. And to do it by
And in my case, it's my half a moment.
Trumpism into the dustbin of history, too.
I get the feeling.
Cannot
You
take
notice
the risk.
Buttigieg
so much on the
rose
line
right around the
of
time
trying to
Beto went
confront
down like the
this president
fucking Hindenburg,
with the
right?
same Washington mindset
I
and
think they
political
replaced
warfare that led
Beto
us
with
to this
Buttigieg a
point.
little bit
If you
in
were
terms of
watching this at
positioning
home
him,
and you were exhausted by the spectacle
which he
of
is
division
much more
and
sane than
dysfunction.
Beto. But
I'm asking you to
not
join me
saying
to help
much.
turn the page on our politics. If you're seeing the president boast about the Dow Jones, wondering whether any of that will ever get to your kitchen table, join me. If you're a voter of color, feeling taken for granted by politics,
I
as
will helm
usual,
my own unique
join
brand
me.
of
If you're used to
micro-Marxism.
voting for the other party, but right now cannot look your kids in the eye and explain this president to them, join me. We have a chance to change all
People
of this if
voted
we can
for
summon the
it!
courage to break from the past.
This is always
That
my
is
issue with
why I am running
politicians.
for
They will
president. It is why I
attack
am
the people
asking
who
you
were
to caucus
elected,
for
not
me
the people
on
who
February 3rd.
elected them,
And I hope
right?
that you will
Their
go to
problem is not with Donald
peaceforamerica.com
Trump.
and
It's
join
with
me in this
you.
effort.
Senator
It's
Warren.
with you.
So, much
Once
as
you
growing in this
personalize it
country,
like that, you will never vote for
I
these
sat here
cucks
in the
again.
break and just made notes about many of the things.
And
we
when
didn't
you
get to
really
talk
break
about
it down,
tonight.
when they get
How the
empowered, that's
disability
the first person they
community
take it
is
out
struggling
on.
for true
I know
equality.
this, and probably the reason I'm so
gun violence
stratified
and
in this
active
belief
shooter
is because
drills
they've done
work
it to
every
my home
mother
state
in
of
this
Arizona
country.
more than
How
a lot,
children are
right?
living in
We
poverty
were one of
and
the
seeing
first
their
states,
life
maybe the
chances
first state, to
shrink.
really take a
How
solid
trans
stand
women,
against illegal
particularly
immigration.
trans women
And
of
what
color,
happened? The
are
moment
at risk.
Obama was elected,
Black
he enacted a
infant
vendetta
mortality,
against my home
climate change
state
that
and
particularly
pressured his
hits black
district
and brown
courts to
communities.
overturn every
People are
immigration
being
measure we
crushed by
fucking
student
passed.
loan debt,
They
farmers who are
threw
barely
our
holding on,
duly
people
elected
struggling
sheriff
with
out of
mental
office.
illness. And yet I come here tonight with a heart filled with hope.
This is what they
And
do
it's
when they get in
filled with
power.
hope
You look
because
at what's
I see
happening in
this
Virginia.
as
That's what
our
happens when they
moment
get in fucking
history.
power.
Our moment when no
Their
one
problem
left
is
on
with
the
you.
sidelines. Our moment when we understand that it comes to us to decide the future of this country. Our moment when we build the movement to make real change. Hope and courage. That is how I
Hope and
proud
oh God.
every day
She
as your nominee
steals Bernie's
and
plan
as the
and
first
Obama's
woman president
catchphrase.
of the United States of America.
We're going with
Senator
hope and
Sanders.
courage now.
It's been a good debate.
Encourage
but
the
we haven't
cowardly dog.
asked The major question. The major question is, how does it happen in the richest country in the history of the world that half of our people are living paycheck to paycheck, trying to get by $9, $10 an hour? How does it happen that when the top 1% owns more wealth than the bottom 92%?
How does it happen that this entire proceeding is funded by the people that I want to tax?
How does it happen in this great country?
Fortunately, given his unique brand of coffee shop communism,
How does it happen that we have a
that could work too, incidentally. There's a lot of leftists at coffee
criminal
shops.
justice system which is broken and racist,
Given his
and
unique
immigration
brand of
system?
coffee shop communism, Bernie can always open a
This
chain of fucking
is the moment
Zarbucks.
when we
So
have
there's
gotta
that.
think
He can
big, not
at least has
small.
that to fall back on.
This is the moment when
Christ
we have
knows he
got
made
to
enough
have the
money
courage
off the public
to
tit.
take on the 1%, take on the greed and
So
corruption
cold today,
of
I'm
the
surprised he
corporate elite
left one of his
and
3
create
mansions.
An economy and create a government that works for all of us, not just the 1%. Thank you.
Vice President Biden.
Character is on the ballot this time around. The American character is on the ballot. Not what Donald Trump is spewing out.
The character
Hate,
of my close friend,
xenophobia,
Hammurabi.
Racism. That's not who we are as a nation. Everyone in this country is entitled to be treated with respect and dignity. Every
As
single
my
solitary
friend
person
Franz
has to
Ferdinand
have a
once
position
said,
that we
"Who's that
expect
man
to
with the
treat
gun?"
with decency. It's about fundamental basic decency. We in the United States of America can put up with, we can overcome 4 years of Donald Trump. But 8 years of Donald Trump will be an absolute disaster and fundamentally change this nation.
What we need is
We have
8
to
more
restore
years of
America's
Obama,
soul, as I
but
said
with a
from the moment
really
I
old,
announced.
demented
It is
guy.
in jeopardy under
Can't
this
imagine why
President
he's
of the
fallen
United
out of
States.
front-runner status.
We lead the world.
I can't
when
imagine.
We lead by example, not by our power. We, in fact, have to regain the respect of the world in order to be able to change things. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in a position right now we have to remember who we are. This is the United States of America.
The
There's not a
United
single
States
thing
of
beyond our
America, folks.
capacity
You heard it
to
here
do.
first.
If we do it together,
We've added an
let's
extra
go
N
do
to
it.
the middle of that.
Candidates, thank you very, very much. That concludes the first Democratic presidential debate of 2020. The Iowa
Oh, so that's how we start 2020 in the political season, folks.
Coverage of this presidential
Oh.
Anderson Cooper and Chris Cuomo pick up our coverage right now.
Oh, commie cuckbags at a college campus. Hard C sounds all around, folks. Wowzers! That was... Thank you for enduring that with me, folks. I appreciate... I know that was pretty fucking rough. Let's... I got more super chats here. Let me get through these fucking things. Da-da!
You hungry?
Am I hungry?
Sorry, I'm a dog.
Oh, she's talking to Cicero.
Where's your food?
Whoa!
Where's your food?
Dog is so fucking massive, guys. He shakes the ground when he hits it. It's crazy. All right. Damian Harkat, take a shot for every evaded question. Why do you think I'm shit-faced? Demaster012, will you stream the presidential debates with Crowder? I don't know. Does he stream the presidential? Oh, the full presidential debates. I'd be happy to if he asked me. I haven't heard from him in a while. JC Gaming, why does Biden always look like he's squinting? I don't know. He's trying to think back to a time when he was a viable frontrunner. Anime Mun, isn't a stire an eye infection, or is it a sty? So you're somebody. Watch the Golden Globe speeches. Apparently the value of a human life is getting to be Weinstein's sloppy seconds. I think that deserves a Tom Hanks reaction image. M62259. Do you think Hillary Clinton will win the nomination? It's a shame she's not winning. I'd have to believe she'd be ahead by 1.5 million. Of course, that's just the body count. The real Bamboonga. Biden worked with Ramses to help free those Israelite slaves. Don't forget. No one has forgotten except Biden. Absolutely no one. Let's get over... Okay. The Atlantean. She'll leave troops in Iraq because Orange Man bad. It's true. Pretty much everybody on the stage, except for Bernie, I think, said they're going to leave troops in Iraq. So, I mean, here's the thing. Even Bernie would probably leave them in Iraq, but he would say that it's just staying behind as a peacekeeping, or we're leaving our bases there, but we're removing our troops, which you can't do. You can't abandon your base, so he would be leaving troops in Iraq. That's probably the technicality he'd use. Patchouli, is it me or does Klobuchar look like she could pass for Pelosi's stunt double? A little hefty for that one. King Cracker, I'm late. Has Warren said how she's going to do a rain dance to help with Australia if she's elected president? Or how many gaffes from Biden so far? Quite a few. I actually should have run a Biden gaffe counter. I need to get on that, actually. The next time there's a debate, I actually need to put that in like the upper left, and I'll just change the number every time it happens. Because I think we were at least 6. It couldn't have been less than that, and I probably talked over some others, let's be real. 13 Stooge, Jesus, they all want another war in the Middle East. That's the thing. It's like, I wish Donald Trump would come out for oxygen just to watch these people hold their breath in unison. Like, seriously, anything he says, they're against. It doesn't matter how innocuous. It doesn't matter how many times they've supported it in the past. You notice they've gotten caught in more and more contradictions over the years, especially Biden and Warren, right? Because they've all said that they're supporting things that Donald Trump supports, but because Donald Trump supports them now, they must be fucking bad. Because Orange Man bad, therefore anything it touches is fucking bad. So, I guess Stormy Daniels' pussy is bad. Aquatics. Did you see Veritas video release today? Yeah, like I said earlier, I did. The real Bambunga. Biden's adult diapers were woven by an actual Mohican Indian. And not even the last Mohican. Griffiths 520. Hey, RazörForce, did you see the new Project Veritas? Yes, I did. Composite Frylock. During Thanksgiving, I played Rampage with my cousin, and I made a joke about Bernie Sanders in Venezuela. People who are starving to death are getting eaten by giant monsters. That's a good thing. They say socialism is bad because people are standing in line for food. That's a good thing. Just like me writing an invisible letter to Santa Claus. Pedro A. Witness the diversity and inclusiveness of these geriatric candidates. Folks, I don't care how much you support the left. You are not going to sell me on these being new ideas when Marxism was invented in the fucking 1800s. and they're all espousing some variant of it. And their combined age is old enough to predate fucking Marx. Like, you're just not gonna... And I'm just talking the top 3 candidates now. The most socialist candidates. Fucking hell. James Bursey, the Biden Doctrine is Stormy Daniels' next porno. Michael Anderson, thank you, sir. Redonk, these weak candidates are just here to echo the party's message and further the press coverage, so that gives them something in common with the CNN moderators. Master of Skitari, I want to become a House member so I can tell Nancy to suck my hairy balls every day. Crimson Hawk, holy fuck, I didn't know you were on tonight. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Michael Anderson. Hey, Razor, have you ever read The Fate of Empires by Sir John Glubb? Yeah. I think many... I'm going to be safe and say no. I have heard of it, though. I don't know if I read it. But isn't that about the Roman Empire? Minarchus 1973. The Dems loathe that Trump is Augustus reincarnated. Speaking of the Roman Empire. Yoke 1193, thank you, sir. Canadian Heistan. Want peace in the Middle East? A good step is to stop supporting Pakistan. When I was in Afghanistan, that was where all the weapons and fighters were coming from. I heard that from a friend of mine, actually, who was stationed in Afghanistan. Got wounded twice. His whole unit got wiped out in Iraq, and a lot of his unit got wiped out in Afghanistan. That motherfucker, shit. Dude's invincible. I don't know how he did that, but he was always a fucking cinch in first-person shooters. So I kind of believe it when we were growing up. Oops. Deplorabology, thank you, sir. Golden Cipher, Buttigieg, Howdy Doody, and Pee Wee Herman. Composite Frylock in Asiatic voice. Yuma Yang Ji. Yes, I am Andrew Yang. Can I touch you? King Cracker. Joe Biden's new slogan. Yeah, motherfucker, I can say words. Saturn Tubes. What are your clothing sizes? I want your wardrobe. What does that even mean? What does that mean? I've had the same size waist since fucking junior high. I don't know if that means I grew early or maybe I was buying oversized I think it's more because I was buying oversized pants when I was... Look, it was the 90s. Don't judge me. Don't judge me. We were all buying oversized pants at the fucking time. It was a dark, dark time, folks. We're lucky. I would say we got out of it, but the 90s kind of never ended. Fuck. God damn it. But no, I have pretty much the same waist size. I'm a size 30, and I wear, mediums. Let's see here. Miguel Olmo, you said we are footing the bill for Europe. Can you elaborate a little bit more? Yeah, a lot of the welfare state for especially a lot of like Scandinavian countries is subsidized by two things. Number one, obviously, there's a lot that we're paying into the international community, and of course, some of our slightly less balanced trade deals. In fairness, a lot of the Scandinavian countries are mostly funded by their vast offshore oil reserves, which are, of course, finite. And at some point, that all comes crashing down. In fact, it's pretty crazy. They still have some budgetary problems in a lot of these countries, even though they have those vast offshore oil reserves, which is not a good sign for whenever the fuck those reserves run out. But... see here, Patchouli, beyond the Stalinist push for Lysenkoism, I never understood why commies hate farmers so much. A lot of it is because I really recommend Stephen Kotkin's series of books on Stalin. He's a Harvard academic who is like the foremost Stalin biographer in the world. Stalin, it was a communist. I don't want to hear any more bullshit about fucking, he was just in it for personal power. His private discourse, his private discussions, everything is now public knowledge. More and more of it has been translated and released in the West, and all he talked about was the fucking Politburo and the bourgeoisie and the international revolution, of which he funded to the tune of hundreds of millions. Stalin believed 100% in a worldwide international socialist revolution. And Stalin, the reason I mentioned Stalin is because he is an operative lesson in what happens when communism meets reality. And nowhere was that more acutely obvious than in what I referenced earlier in this debate, his struggle with farmers and having to essentially embrace capitalism in the countryside. He basically told the farmers, okay, don't tell anybody, but you get to be capitalist, because there's no way we can feed our fucking people otherwise. Everybody else has to adhere to this communistic fucking horse shit over in the cities. They have to fucking suffer and stand in fucking bread lines. But you guys out in the countryside, you get to be capitalist because we gotta fucking eat. I'm sorry. So honestly, I think that is a huge reason why, because it really goes all the way back to the Russian Revolution and the communists in Russia's bitter clash with fucking reality. Deplorabology, the real end goal of gun control is abolishing any property. Even that old pencil jar in your basement will belong to the fucking government. That is a component of it. I really think that's a component not enough people talk about, is the contempt for property rights that really comes down. Because, bro, if you talk about any other form of property, can you imagine if suddenly they said... Your form of car is now outlawed. And so retroactively, anybody who bought that car before this law was enacted, which, by the way, is what's happening in Virginia, there's no grandfather clause. Which means if you bought a gun that is now outlawed by Virginia law, you need to hand it in or you're in violation of the fucking bullshit law. So... imagine if that were the case with a car. Imagine if it were the case with your house. Imagine if it were the case with anything else. Your fucking couch. I don't give a fuck what it is. If they just came out and said, okay, we passed a law and now retroactively what you bought is no longer legal, so hand it over to the fucking government. That's what he's talking about here. That's what this super chat, that's what deplorabology is talking about. The absolute abject contempt for property rights. And it goes back to the Democratic Party's increased embrace of socialism. Deplorabology again. Death by poor working conditions should be murder. Daniel J. Corica. If Warren gets elected, will all her meetings be renamed powwows? The Flying Templar donates $20. Thank you, sir. Daily reminder, Bernie got kicked out of a hippie commune in the 70s. Story was he would BS about politics all day and would disappear during chore time. He did show up for the food time, though. True story. I could see it being the case. He was never one to miss a good breadline. Winston Churchill's ghost, thank you, sir. John Cusiak, thoughts on Paul Joseph Watson video on porn? I haven't seen it. Deplorabology, now I understand the terrorists. And he puts a clown face there. Scarier 3. Someone should teach Warren basic geometry. Circles don't have corners. Architect of Fate, Razor, would you be willing to get Mahler and Rags on to do an EFAP analysis of the DNC debates? Also, have you told Eve the benefits of keto? She loves keto. I'm kind of on a... I don't want to say... I'm not really on a keto diet, but I am... I mentioned I have a thyroid condition. I'm slowly starting to roll back that condition through a diet, through dietary changes. And some of it does involve slight keto. I don't have to be in full ketosis, but I do have to watch carbs and so forth. Heathen James, stop looking at me! Steyer sees into your heart and mind. Pete Lapino, longtime follower. Appreciate all you do. Godspeed, sir. God the fucking speed to you, sir. Jural0401, a Democrat for everyone. I'd take one for 10% of us. Okay, let's get... Oh, shit. It just updated. Goddamn, I lost my list. Let's go up here. I lost the list. There we go! Bryson Harper. Is that a Bryce Harper reference? Sorry, I'm a little depressed because of the fucking... the massive cheating scandal in baseball right now. You're gonna have to pull me out of my depression. Someone help me. The fucking Astros are cheating for the 9 billionth time. Oh, shit. My entire worldview has been rocked. Bryson Harper. Joe about said protect the oil in the Middle East. God. Did. I mean, look, he's basically just the standard McCainite, George W. Bush, Obama establishment politician made flesh. So if you want some of that, if another repeat of 2008, you know, the whole thing Trump was elected to avoid sounds appealing to you, then Biden is your boy, folks. Nightwish fan, 1991. How goes the 78 socialist that had a heart attack doing? Nightwish fan 1991 again. Can't wait to have our first death on a debate stage on live TV with the way this is going. No shit! Like, you know they've got somebody on the side of the stage with a fucking defibrillator. There's no fucking way you're letting Bernie on stage without that. I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting to hear clear! Farseer Moonfail. I keep hoping that the shattering glass from WWF for Stone Cold pops up and Trump just crashes this boring ass thing. I think everybody's waiting for the general debates. Because anybody on this stage would get fucking steamrolled by Trump. Anybody. It'd be a fucking laugh and a half. Can you imagine Biden and Trump on a debate stage? Oh, God. Please don't drop out, Joe. Please, please. Of course, if he keeps fading like this... And I saw a poll recently that was, and I'm paraphrasing. I think Warren was at 17%, which is pretty bad. She was a lot higher than that recently. Buttigieg was like 16% or something. I could be wrong on that. And Biden is now at 15 fucking percent. He's now in third place. This was a poll I just saw like 2 days ago. I mean, that is quite a Messiah to pariah plummet, folks. That's pretty fucking nuts. Black Bull 77, who would be the Larry, Moe, and Curly of this debate? Well, you'd have to go. Larry would have to be Bernie. There's no fucking way. He'd have to be Larry. Mo Howard? Shit. Oh, God. Who could I see saying, listen up, Chowderhead? I can see maybe Warren. I don't know. I'm not sure. No, it'd have to be someone with really bad hair, so it has to be Buttigieg. Buttigieg would have to be Mo. and Curly, oh, damn. Curly would have to be Biden. I mean, there's no way. I half believe after this debate right now, he's just spinning in a circle on the ground going, whoop, 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 whoop. Matthew J. Killian, are you going to do a video on Lovecraft like you did for Howard? I'm not the biggest Lovecraft. I mean, what I've That's not true. I've read some stuff from Lovecraft that I like, and Robert E. Howard and Lovecraft are, interrelated. They were friends. They shared inspiration. I know Lovecraft inspired a lot of Robert E. Howard stories, and vice versa, by the way. Robert E. Howard inspired some Lovecraft stuff, so that'd be cool, but I'd have to get more into it first. I'd have to research it more. Wiggles! Sanders, to win you need youth, vigor, energy, and heart. That's why I'm getting a new one. That's why I'm getting a cybernetic one. David Hater. Orange Man Bear Pig is bad guys. I'm super cereal. Whoops, my puppy is being loud. Allosaurus. The Middle East could do with some nuclear weapons. Little Boy Scout. Hey, Razor, if you could debate anyone about anything, who and what would you choose? Also, Eve is hot. Good for you. You hear that, baby?
Thank you.
She said thank you. Fuck. Oh, God. I'd say Crowder on the Michael Jackson allegations.
Yes.
I'd say that. Howard Walters, if Bernie, Warren, and Biden fell over and died right now, who would be more happy, Clinton or Trump? Permafrost, Tulsi has a decent amount of donations saved. Any chance of her sticking around until the end just to get her message out like Ron Paul in 2012? See, that's the X factor in all this. I predicted Tulsi because she's taken on water, and the problem is she's lost a lot of her moderate support by making more extreme positions in the last month or so. And that's kind of the calculus that I'm using to measure why I think Tulsi might be the next person to drop out. Klobuchar has managed to somehow register at 5% in polls. Steyer is independently wealthy, so he can stay in as long as he fucking wants. And I think he's in there, like I said, just to keep the pressure on Trump while the debates are going on. I really don't think he's a serious candidate. I think at most he's running to be vice president right now. So I don't see him being the next guy to drop out. He'll probably just not be on a debate stage eventually because we'll be down to higher percentage requirements, and then he'll just be off the debate stage, and then he'll quietly bow out of the race. So I don't think it would be him. I think Tulsi's probably the most likely person. Yang is also, this is another thing that disqualifies Yang, is he is independently wealthy. So he can stay in as long as he wants. I don't know if he would. Maybe he would, crunch the numbers at a certain point and realize it's more financially viable to drop out. I don't know. That's possible. But because of his independent wealth, I think he's less likely to drop out before Tulsi. I think Tulsi is probably the most likely person. Klobuchar will stay in until those numbers bottom out and she can't qualify for a debate, I think. But Tulsi now has missed 2 debates. This one, she said she's not going to take part in, which was totally a face-saving bullshit maneuver. I think we can all fucking see through that shit. Yeah, she's taken on water, folks. I don't know how much... but to address your point, I do think it's an X factor how much money she has saved up. Because I don't know, one of the ways I was able to predict that Kamala Harris would drop out was because she was having financial problems. And it was starting to be reported. So I haven't heard anything in that connection with Tulsi, so who knows? If she has donations saved up, maybe she doesn't. Maybe she outlasts some of the others. But I don't see her being able to outlast someone like Steyer and Yang, who have their own fucking piggy bank to draw from. I really don't. Let's go to more super chats. Okay. Heathen James, thank fuck I work for a company that only charges me $45 a month for full coverage. Getting charged for not having healthcare is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, if you can get it through work, that's the way to do it, folks. That is the way to do it. Filipino white boy, given blood can cover the cost of medication, how much does being a donor get exactly? Isn't it well, it depends from place to place, but, I think it's $65 or something on average, something like that. If I remember correct, I have worked with the homeless a little bit. So last time I was doing volunteer work, which wasn't that long ago, with the homeless, it was somewhere in the $50, $60 something range. But obviously, if you give more, it's more. Dave to Save 26 should make cuts to Medicare and Medicaid, which is part of the reason the cost of healthcare went up. Nightwish fan 1991. I just want Bernie to get the nomination so I can see an UK election style pummeling. I said, I made that video. I stand by every fucking word. What happened to Jeremy Corbyn is a preview of what would happen in a Bernie-led Democratic ticket. Or more accurately, it's a flashback to what would have happened if Bernie had gotten the nomination in 2016. I really do. You get a fucking populist-style, quasi-conservative, big-money conservative like Boris Johnson with bad hair, right? Sound familiar? Against basically a communist, and that's what you get. That's the election you wind up with. I said in 2016 Bernie could not have been elected, and I stand by it. I believe he would have lost even worse than Hillary. Jonathan Brown, remember when Pete Bootybutt wanted to earn the minority vote by making the whitest campaign on the planet with a shitty dance? I do. I don't know how Beto planned to secure that black vote with fucking skateboarding memes and shit. Alex Whaleman, Boogaloo 2020. EFL, so many of our politicians are becoming completely detached from the electorate. These people spend decades of their lives isolated from everyone by a dozen layers of AIDS. We need hard term limits. Fucking preach, my friend. Sorry, that was an untimely burp. I apologize. Preach, brother. Guns blazing. I would add there should really be a term limit. Not a term limit necessarily, but there should be an age limit, at least, for Supreme Court. Because we're getting to the point where Ruth Bader Ginsburg is held together with fucking spit and Band-Aids and fishing twine, and she's just clinging on for dear fucking life. What remains of her dear fucking life. And I'm glad she says she was cured of cancer. I'm not sure how I buy it, though. Pancreatic is really hard to cure even when you catch it early, but, you know, whatever. She's basically clinging on for political reasons. The part that pisses me off is there are not supposed to be political reasons on the Supreme Court. It is, in theory, a nonpartisan office. You're not supposed to be holding on just to keep your Democrat bloc in the Supreme Court. That's not how it's supposed to work. Right, left, or center. It's not supposed to be fucking political. And yet here we are. This woman is moldering into fucking dust before our goddamn eyes, and she is refusing to resign solely for the political reasons that aren't supposed to exist. The fuck? I've said it before, I'll say it again. No branch of our government needs a nerf harder than the Supreme Court. Because the fact that this woman is basically risking dying in office purely for political reasons is proof that the Supreme Court has too much power. Way too much power. There would be no incentive for her to hang on otherwise. None. Let's see here. Guns blazing. Biden getting the nomination is a proxy for Obama versus Trump. Pretty much none of these people should get the nomination, barring Tulsi. Tulsi has played the moderate very effectively. I said many times she is a dyed in the dung Bernie bro. But she rightly ascertained very early on that the real movement going forward after all this socialism shit comes crashing down is going to be in playing the moderate. That's where her real success is going to come from. She is thus far the only candidate who is adequately positioned to benefit from that. So if in 2022 if it all comes crashing down after this impeachment proceeding, which history has shown us, the party of impeachment generally suffers dearly in the following elections. Newt Gingrich famously was ousted immediately after the Bill Clinton impeachment, and George W. Bush barely got elected in 2000, and his party suffered sweeping losses in several elections after that impeachment. I mean, it clearly costs you. I think if 9/11 hadn't happened, those consequences probably would have continued. But party of impeachment usually suffers, and I think Tulsi has rightly ascertained, she can see the writing on the wall. She is a shrewd manipulator. I think she has rightly discerned that's going to be the way going forward. And but I do think it's an act. And it's kind of, she has suffered the most in the last couple of weeks. It's temporary damage, not long-term damage yet. But I think she's taken some hits because her mask has come off a couple times. And I think the biggest example of this was when she leapt to Bernie's defense against Warren, there was no reason for Tulsi to weigh in. No reason whatsoever. You should just stay out of it, because it's all he said, she said. It doesn't really matter what you have to say in Bernie's defense about sexism or whatever the fuck, right? So there's no reason for Tulsi to weigh in, but she had to, because Bernie's her guy. Bernie is her guy, folks. That's why she piped up. Make no mistake. And the longer this goes on, you're going to see more and more, there's going to be cracks in the facade a little bit. Oh, let's see here. Mr. Brightside 390, I'm a political science major at ASU. Oh, you poor bastard. Don't tell me you go to the Cronkite School. What a fucking shit show that is. And want to interview you for a class project. Can we get in contact sometime? Yeah, hit me up on Twitter or some shit. I'm fine with that. 13 Stooge, Tom Steyer, I can narrate your bowel movement. Enter the Tekken. Cry for Shaw has a sob story every time she speaks. She keeps crying. Benjamin, yeah, it was like anecdote after anecdote after fucking anecdote with that woman. Benjamin Myers, what's up, my Ewoks? Sorry for being late. Zach Tobias, guys, the Des Moines Reporter is kind of hot. I don't know who that is. Star ASP, I think Williamson would have been the only candidate in the Dem field that could have given Trump a true run for his money as a lunatic candidate. Darth Bobcat, when Booker dropped out, I thought it had been news last week. Couldn't tell Castro and Booker apart. Yep. Demaster012, thoughts on Polish death metal band Decapitated? It's death metal. Pitlin44, thank you for going through all the evidence that Michael Jackson was innocent. I had never heard any of that. Justice for Michael. Godspeed, sir. And I have a feeling these accusers are going to get pretty well fucking BTFO'd in court. Apparently, they're going to be entitled to... the previous claim has been settled, so they can't sue on the same grounds they did before. But they are going to be allowed to have another trial on a completely separate matter. And that's, believe it or not, that's actually good for the Michael Jackson estate, because now they can present the case that these guys are full of fucking shit. And you know this court case will be covered on media, and so they will get embarrassed in public. That's the thing. The Michael Jackson estate has consistently been pushing for all these proceedings to happen in public. They don't want it behind closed doors. They pushed for public arbitration, right? They really want this to play out in public because they want Michael Jackson publicly vindicated because he was innocent. I think if the Michael Jackson estate was trying to pay people off or trying to cover anything up, they would not be doing that. They have consistently pushed for all of this to be carried out in public, and there's a reason for that. Mechanized Manifesto. Warren looks like an Oblivion vampire. She kind of looks like, actually, you know what she kind of looks like? With the pursed-lipped, like, scowl and shit, she looks like one of the piss-stained high elves from fucking Skyrim a little bit. A little bit, especially with the eyebrows, right? I always said they turned the high elves into, like, piss-stained Klingons in that game. I don't know what the fuck the high elves ever did to Bethesda, but they've gotten uglier with each successive game. Kyle Parrish, didn't Liz Warren play Dot Matrix and Spaceballs? Uncanny resemblance. Stop looking up my can. Redonk, government child care programs equals indoctrination. Yep. I mean, what is public education if not glorified child care anyway? Hi, Pupper. Geekito. Geekito. Hey, bud. Oh, he thinks he's about to get fed. See, he's a big old boy now. He's a big old Cane Corso now. And he's not even quite 10 months. Not even quite 10 months old. He's a big guy. Oh, she's going to carry him. Here we go. There we go. There he is. Can you lower him? Can you? Lower him a bit. Whoa, there's our guy. He's a big old boy. All right, let's see here. Benjamin Myers, per Bernie, childcare workers are working for less than McDonald's workers, only based on area minimum wage and state retard. You see a lot of skewed facts, but that's true of any fucking debate, in fairness. Heathen James, what is going on with the side of her mouth? Dave to Save 26, he talked about CPS. They are way into CPS. The Democrats have always been way into CPS. And that should alarm you. I'll tell you why. Because most of these Democrats are pushing for a European model, right? Which, you know, to steal a joke from Dennis Miller, I'll say this in defense of Trump. At least when he says he's pursuing a European model, he means a European model. But no, like, most of the Democrats are pushing for European-style socialism. Well, if you look at countries that have European-style socialism, I mean, let's just take Germany. You need to Google right now German CPS, because German CPS is a fucking crime against humanity. There are websites upon websites, documentaries upon documentaries about parents who have had their children taken away from them by German CPS because their kids show up to a doctor's visit without getting a shower first or something, and they literally lose their kids because the doctors are able to report the parents for fucking anything, and it's just assumed the doctor is telling the truth, right? Teachers can do it, doctors can do it, any public official can do it, and the German CPS program has just unilateral authority to just take children from parents, and they institute taxes. Worse still, there's financial penalties. And of course, all of this plays into the court system in Germany and everything. And it's basically a giant money racket to basically make parents pay for their fucking kids. And this is in a country with massively plummeting birth rates already. So you can imagine how this is affecting the birth rate situation in Germany, which is among the lowest in the entire fucking world. German CPS is an absolute fucking abomination. And the fact that these Democrat socialists are essentially advocating some kind of German-style CPS, it should also be said it's one of the few programs that has been carried over from Nazi Germany. There's a comforting fucking thought. Bowser says, "You look like Spoonie." Thanks. Demaster012, why do feminists love Islam? Call me crazy, but I think it's because they were indirectly founded by Satan. Look up David Wood and Mark Passio for proof, and he's merely pulling his puppet's strings. Okay, Michael Douglas, 100,000 American servicemen died fighting these people in Korea and Vietnam. Trash person, when did Cicero get so big? What a good boy. He is a good boy. The Real Bambunga, Stiers, Bloomberg, and Soros combine to form a commie version of Voltron. Jack Timmerman, can you do a stream of you playing guitar, making metal music, or at least do it at the end of one of your streams? I play just enough guitar to know I can't play guitar. So I could play power chords only. The only instrument I could ever play with any competence, and admittedly I'm very competent at it, was saxophone. I was first chair in junior high and high school. So I can play a little jazz saxophone, believe it or not. Jack Timmerman, alto saxophone, by the way, before anyone asks. Can you do a stream of you... Oops, sorry, wrong one. Just read that. Benjamin Myers, jabbing it up! My kingdom for a fucking Jeb come from behind win. I think Buttigieg is the only one who has come from behind wins covered. Renegade Show. Am I the only one who thinks that Warren has the head has the head moments of a large... Oh, the head movements of a large flightless bird? Mr. Texas Preacher. Why do none of these green energy clowns talk about nuclear power? No shit. I think they don't mean glowing green energy. Just Mike. Old man race to lose to Trump. Trump is old, folks. Trump is old as shit. If the Democratic Party was even remotely competent, his age would be an issue. But because the Democrats have essentially single-handedly made it a non-issue by nominating their three frontrunners as the oldest fucks they could find. Bernie Sanders, who's about to evaporate after a strong fucking breeze. Right? Fucking Biden, who's kept alive with Egyptian magic. And of course, fucking Warren, who, you know, she's on a first name basis with Lewis and fucking Clark. Are you kidding? The Real Bambunga. Biden's hair plugs have almost fully replaced his brain with hair. 83% hair, 17% brain. Just Mike, thank you, sir. Das Pooch, doesn't matter how much token black support Buttigieg gets, blacks en masse will never vote for a homosexual. No idea what he's thinking. Steve Crotty, and the climate alarmists turned a 16-year-old kid into the mouth of Sauron to push their agenda. That was a cute little episode when she advocated fucking the violent overthrow of governments that disagree with her climate agenda. That was a good... That'll happen when you get talking points from your Antifa-affiliated parents. Look it up, folks. Look it up. Andrew Advent, Razor, how do you reconcile believing the economy is strong while at the same time talking about law degree holders relying on their spouse's income? Well, that's what I'm talking about. The economy is completely independent now of college graduates. That's what I'm specifying there. A college degree means fucking nothing. People who are getting into positions of any kind of wealth independence are doing it under their own volition now, which is good. Frankly, that's a good thing. People are essentially making positions for themselves. They're making wealth for themselves, which is the essence of a free market. We do not, for the record, I'm not saying we have a free market. We have a heavily fucking regulated market. In fact, there's many, many, many countries on planet Earth, including some that consider themselves socialist, that have less regulated economies than ours. Sweden actually rolled back one of the ways they pay for their welfare state was by rolling back drastically and dramatically regulations on their economy. They took away, they formerly had a bunch of nationalized industries, because in the late 70s and early 80s, they tried full-blown fucking socialism, right? They actually rolled back a bunch of governmental controls in order to pay for their welfare state, and that's essentially how they do it right now. That and unbalanced trade deals and so forth is how they pay for their welfare state, and they still have some difficulty paying for it. It must be fucking said. But yeah, those are really two issues, is what I'm saying. College graduates ain't worth fucking shit anymore, and it's becoming increasingly obvious that college graduate is... I would also say there's an issue with college graduates commanding higher prices and demanding certain conditions to their employment that cost the companies more money when they're actually hired. So it's actually making college graduates less hireable in this economy. So the economy is indeed roaring. Like I said, 3% fucking unemployment. But at the same time, the college graduates are just less and less fucking valuable. And this is why less and less people are going to fucking college. And it's one of the reasons the Democrats are pushing for free college. Because if they can just get more people in college, then they can get those people indoctrinated. They won't have jobs, but that's good for the Democrats because they get to preach their fucking rigmarole about people not having jobs and therefore we need fucking socialism. It's the circle of fucking spite, Simba. Danemy and Harkat, you ever notice how no matter the topic, they always have a relatable upbringing / relative / friend / period of life / personal story that they pull out? But enough about Klobuchar. The Real Bambunga, Joe knows reading. Tappy Toes, high energy chat. I'm having 2016 vibes. We need that same high energy in all live stream chats. Man, this year's meme wars will be in the history books. Son of Liberty, you are on fire tonight. My wife is so mad I am laughing at the Dem debacle. I mean debate. No, debacle. Tappy Toes, someone get Peter Griffin's daughter off the stage. Somebody get her fucking skull cap. Alchemist 1999. Bo Raicho wins. What poll did they find where Tom Steyer actually had a pulse? Because I doubt he has that many unique donations. From what I understand, there is some serious debate about whether Tom Steyer actually qualified for this debate. They changed up rules for qualifying for the debate at the last minute. And then there was some rando outlier poll, or maybe one or two, that had him register at like 1%. So they were like, all right, Steyer, you're in. Oh man, it was bullshit. It reeked of bullshit. I feel bad. I think Andrew Yang's full of 7 shades of shit, but if I were Andrew Yang, I'd be fucking pissed. I am pissed on Andrew Yang's behalf, and that's hard to do, folks. That's hard to do. The Real Bambunga, Ukraine thought Iran was a flyover state. Oh, man. Apparently they were rushing to judgment. Wiggles! Since Beto quit, I haven't had to cling to my guns. I don't know about that one. Biden drafted the original assault weapons ban, and I believe one of the reasons Beto stayed in the race as long as he did was because there were a lot of shootings and shit, and gun control was on the agenda. So Beto was kind of a helpful figure for running interference for how bad Biden is on gun control. Because as long as Beto was saying shit like, hell yeah, we're going to seize your AR-15, we're going to take your guns over 10 rounds, blah, 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 blah. As long as he was saying that shit, nobody was paying attention to the fact that Biden, if elected, would be the worst Democratic president on the subject of gun control ever elected, period. I mean, when you hear some of the things he has said about gun control, it is fucking alarming. He sounds every bit as bad as Ralph Northam. So if he was elected, it would be it would be the end of gun rights to a large degree. All right, Marcette. Bernie, the things I do for love. No face required. If I have to hear top 1% and paycheck to paycheck one more time, I swear I might tear my own ears out. These straw men piss me off to no end. I'm with you, bro. Brandon B., thanks for watching this so I didn't have to. Mike Depew, buy a Whataburger honey butter chicken biscuit on me. Godspeed, sir. Pitland 44, thank you for all your hard work showing that Michael Jackson was innocent. You changed my mind on Michael Jackson. Oh, Godspeed, sir. I'm glad I did. Just update it again. I hate when that fucking happens. Here we go. Okay, Real Bamboonga, the Democratic Party and the Last Crusade, Raiders of the Lost Healthcare. All right. The Trumpster. Oh, the Trumpster. I've got thyroid problems, so on a kind of keto myself. Any recommendations for someone with our condition? Well, it depends on which one you have. I myself was diagnosed with hypothyroidism in 2017. I believe it was down to, because usually when you have thyroid issues, it's something else that's going on. You've either got a liver issue. If you're a woman, you've got some kind of ovary issue. Or you've got some kind of adrenal issue. I think in my case it was adrenal because I was really high on adrenaline for a long time. That sounds like I had an adrenochrome problem, but no. I had an unbalanced adrenal issue for like a long time. So I think that's what caused it. So really you have to treat the underlying cause and the symptom at the same time. I'm looking into taking some thyrotropin, which in cases of Hashimoto's disease, which basically means that your immune system is attacking your thyroid, it simulates being your thyroid. And so you take this medication and it essentially attacks the medication and gives your thyroid time to heal. So that's important to do first because your thyroid's not going to stop being attacked by your immune system unless you do something about that. And then you need to address your diet, and you need, if you have the adrenal issue, then you need at least 45 minutes to an hour of like pussy exercise, like walking, right? I have a normal exercise routine. I always have. I actually have to watch that because that could burn out your adrenals too. But, like low stress exercise, walking 45 minutes to an hour every single day is good. That kind of thing. Maybe yoga, something like that. I'm not a yoga guy. Yoga is just stretching, people. Fuck's sake. But yeah, in terms of diet, you want to watch shit like broccoli, believe it or not. Broccoli is not so good for you. Cruciferous vegetables can be kind of bad. But like shit like grapes is really good for you. You want a high potassium diet, shit like bananas and tomatoes and asparagus and, Brussels sprouts, whatever. Stuff that's high in potassium. And you want to take vitamin A, B1, and D1. Let's see here. But I'm, by the way, mine is in balance. I'm fine now. But I'm trying to address the underlying cause now that I'm successfully medicated. Yeah, I didn't know what was going on. Actually, around the time I've told this story before. I was going to do a debate on the drunken peasants, and I was fucking horribly ill. I didn't know what the fuck was wrong. I had no energy. I had just had a friend die and whatever. It usually starts with like a stress event. And I didn't know what the fuck was wrong. I had no energy, whatever the fuck. But at the same time, I was like really anxious. It was really weird. You felt like simultaneously like you were panicking and like falling asleep at the same time. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. It felt fucking awful. But it took the better part of a fucking year to medicate that properly. So, you know, get your thyroid in balance and then watch your diet. And then exercise like a pussy. Bad Saw! That Monlicker joke was worth a $5 on its own! Cheers. Godspeed, sir. Dylan Killen, can we just skip all the bullshit and start Order 66 already? I mean, come on. The Democrats are SIFs. There is no debate. Does that make Trump Luke? So this is how democracy dies. With thunderous applause. Ziago! By the way, we don't live in a democracy. Ziago! Looking for good books to read up on for political history. Any suggestions? Well, I just recommended a series of them by Stephen Kotkin on Stalin. I also recommend, especially for the bullshit that Klobuchar said earlier about fucking have you no decency and Joseph McCarthy, I fucking cannot recommend Blacklisted by History, which is all about Joe McCarthy. It is a fucking tome. In fact, if I can find it, it is massive. It's like this thick, folks. It's huge. It's the Bible of communist infiltration of America, and it is painstakingly sourced. Like, it isn't like this person just rambles. It's genius. Everything is verifiable, and it is the biggest fucking red pill on all the disinformation your social studies teacher, because we don't have history teachers anymore, but your fucking social studies teacher fed into your brain box. You will never trust a history professor again, folks. You will never. The amount of bullshit you were sold and I was sold, all of us were fucking sold, blow your fucking brain box. Read that book. It's good. I also recommend Hollywood Party by Kenneth Lloyd Billingsley. That's more about the communist infiltration of Hollywood. I really, really like that one. Let's go. Okay, we only got a few left. The real Bamboonga, Tulsi would be the only one who might actually have a period while in office. Lamented Guide, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I call her Darth Bader. Oh, that's not bad. So how did I not think of that? Oh man. I hate when I hear a burn so good, I wish I thought of it. That fucking sucks, man. That was a good one. The real Bamboonga, Ruth Bader is being kept alive in Mr. House's preservation chamber. The only thing keeping her alive is habit. Rural, who wants Tulsi in... Oh, who wants Tulsi in more? Her or Tim Pool? I don't think... Sorry, Tim Pool. I don't think she has... Obviously, I don't think she has much of a chance. I think that's easy to discern from the poll numbers. But, yeah, I think she's next, personally. That would be my guess. Like I said, I'm 3-0 on predicting who's going to be next of the major candidates to drop out. So, never bet against the Razor. But I could be wrong. I'm due. Skelliger, thoughts on the metal Mongol band The Who? I heard a little bit of it. It was kind of cool. Michael Anderson, why do we seem to have a pattern of having a Republican and then Democrat president? Because we have the political rubber band going on, and mainly because the establishment has been in power for how fucking long. And look, folks, what were we hearing from John McCain for fucking years? Oh, we need to be moderate, my French. We need to come across the aisle, my French. We need to be in the middle. Folks, when Republicans and Democrats are agreeing, there is only one thing that can be assured. You, my friends, are being fucked up the ass. I don't want my Republicans and Democrats agreeing. I don't want to because if you walk into a fucking voting booth and there's a far left Democrat and a far right Republican on the ballot, then we call that a fucking choice. But if both of those people have moved to the middle of the aisle, that is called a tyranny of homogeneity, folks. That is, they have already made your choice for you. So I want an actual choice. I don't want no middle of the road motherfuckers. And you know what? I think that's one of the arguments, honestly, for a third party. I think a third party should not be farther left or farther right. I think a third party should be middle of the road. Because then if you want a middle of the road choice, then you should be able to pick one. That way, in a presidential election, we could have the right-wing candidate, the left-wing candidate, and then the middle-of-the-road candidate. So if you want to argue for a third party, I think we're looking at third parties wrong, to be perfectly honest. But I want a fucking choice. I don't want my Republicans and Democrats agreeing. I want them fighting like cats and dogs. I pay them enough fucking money. They should have to fight 24/7. We engineered that gridlock for a reason, by the way. The Founding Fathers did. Let's see here. Michael Anderson, why do we seem to have a... Oh, sorry. I just read that. Cody Braley, what are your thoughts on Blind Guardian? I saw your recent rant on not liking Running Wild after leaning hard into the pirate theme. I love Blind Guardian. Blind Guardian's great, and I'm looking forward to the Demons and Wizards album, which is coming out pretty fucking soon here. Moist John, American CPS is already trash. How is German worse? Oh, look it up, bro. Look it up. Dylan Killen, what are your thoughts on beings like Satan? Do you believe he actually exists, or is he a personification of evil and is meant more as a lesson? I believe in reptilians from the planet Kolob and that Jesus and Satan are brothers. Terja Samuelson again. Quick sax demo, please. I don't have my saxophone here right now. Demaster012, seriously, why do you think feminists love Islam? I don't know. Maybe they just, I don't know. Well, some women get off on being hit. What? Eyes of the Wolf 101. Just ask one of the underage girls that lived with Onision. Eyes of the Wolf 101! The evils of German CPS make sense, considering that one of the founding tenets of the earliest socialist constitution is the abolition of the traditional family and to engineer the perfect human. Indeed. Let's get up there. I'm almost at the end, folks! Almost at the end. APOD2994, I thought Bloomberg had infinite money, and yet he's missing for the debate stage. Funny that. Well, he said, I'd be willing to debate as long as they change the qualifications for debating, which is another way of saying nobody's gonna vote for me. Plus, Bloomberg's a little busy right now telling Virginia who they should vote for. I think he's a little busy pushing gun control in states he's never even been in. I think that's sort of preoccupying him at the moment. Mr. Duckhead, if you got a buzz cut, you'd look like Hunter S. Thompson. Thanks. He was a good-looking fella. Bo Raicho wins. Elizabeth Warren should change her name to Bert and run as the first transgender male because she sure won't be the first female president. Iron Rider, any update on the Second Amendment trouble in Virginia? Yeah, someone just gave it to us earlier. There's been so much pushback thus far on SB 16, they're transitioning now to a House bill, which is not surprising. I more or less figured that once there was enough pushback on SB 16, they would just abandon that or modify it so much that it won't get passed, and then move on to another bill while everyone's paying attention to SB 16. It's why it's so fucking important you not stop paying attention to this. Virginia's ground zero, folks. Virginia is ground fucking zero. Do not look away. Don't look away. And the more they tell you it's over, be convinced it's not fucking over. Seriously. Benjamin Myers, they wanted to do yoga for my spinal degeneracy. That didn't work well. Yikes. Sean Fairservice, hey Razor, your thoughts on gothic metal and the band Typo Negative? Good or shit? I am not a fan of Typo Negative. My girl likes them though. Stealth Creations, with openly gay Buttigieg trying to preach gospel, would his being Democratic nominee alienate religious Latino vote or just make them go, huh, that's kinky? The Latino vote classically has not gone for a homosexual, but they are very, very enthralled to the Democratic Party, so who fucking knows? You know what I mean? It's, from what I understand, the Hispanic vote is kind of one issue. If you can marshal them on immigration, then they're probably going to go for that. Although there's a lot of legal Hispanic immigrants, in fact, I'd probably say a majority, who fucking hate illegal immigration, but a lot of them don't vote. That's the simple fact. They just simply do not vote. And actually, Hispanic voting, percentage-wise, is among the lowest voting blocks. They're not big voters, either legal or illegal. Alexander Ferris, RazörForce for president. LOL. You have a good night, Razor. Keep it metal. Godspeed, sir. Mikey Gussler, do you read my super chat from earlier about EFAP? I certainly did. Dave to Save 26, a lot of heresy coming from this debate. Think it's time for the exterminatus. No face required. So when Trump wins, how big are the riots going to be? With all the propaganda about Trump being the worst, I'd be surprised if they didn't happen. Well, it wouldn't matter because at that point he'd probably have carte blanche, because after an impeachment proceeding, the party defending from impeachment usually gains seats. And it must be said, the math is not in the Democrats' favor already in terms of how many people are defending their House seats and Senate seats in 2020. It favors Republicans. That's already the case in 2020. So if there's enough senators and House seats that flip, and there's a good chance if you push this impeachment shit that that's going to happen, then Trump could wind up getting reelected with a majority in both houses. And that's a scary proposition for the 6 fucking Muppets on stage tonight. That is some scary shit right there. At that point, honestly, you can riot all you fucking want. He's going to get whatever he wants done. It's not going to matter. You can march in the fucking streets, and you probably would see marching in the streets at that point, because if history has shown us anything, it's that when the modern Democratic left aren't in power and have no voice, they generally think marching is a substitute for political action. So we'd probably see quite a bit of marching, and God, no trash can would be safe. Fuck. Let's see, one more. Peter Blentastic. Cthulhu for America 2020. Dylan Killen, Islam is right about women. Bogzar Krolewowski, best dark fantasy. For me, that would be Elric. I love the Elric series, sir, and it's going to be getting a television show soon. So I'm pretty excited about that. Deplorabology, Ground Zero was the 1934 NFA. Yes, well, that's true. That's absolutely true. And that was during an era, I've said it before, as we head into the 20s here, let's try not to repeat what happened in the last 20s. Where basically the entire population of the U.S. were just like, fuck it, take our liberty. We don't need to be able to fucking drink. We don't need to be able to smoke the doobies. We don't need anything. We don't need fucking automobile rights. Yeah, require us to have a fucking license. Fucking require us to have insurance. All that fucking bullshit that's clearly unconstitutional. Fucking take our liberty. We don't need it. It's the roaring 20s, right? If we wind up with the fucking Rian 20s, where we wind up giving what little of our liberty remains, we truly are fucked, folks. So let's see here. But yeah, the 1934 NFA was came in connection with all that. This is something a lot of people don't talk about. Democrats will talk until they're blue in the face about how prohibition didn't work. At least the pro-marijuana Democrats will, which there aren't actually that many on the national stage. It's mostly libertarians and, believe it or not, some Republicans who are pro-marijuana at this point. Very, very strange. But, they'll talk until they're blue in the face about how, the drug war's not working because prohibition doesn't work and blah, 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 blah. They will not talk about the fact that the NFA came directly on the heels of prohibition. That it was all part of the same thing. It was pushed by the same groups. It was passed with the same fucking facile, flawed logic. They do not talk about the fact that the NFA and our modern firearms regulations are an artifact of the prohibition era. They do not tend to mention that. The real Bambunga, when Buttigieg blows a Mexican dude, do you think it gives him diarrhea? Oh my. If it was a prostitute, would that make it a horchata? Ziago, maybe in about 8 years, Oklahoma will go blue. Bro, it is fucking red as fuck right now. I don't know about that. It'd probably take a little longer than that. RC intro, you rock, make my $5 worth it. Who do you predict will be up against Trump? And it's too late for Hillary to file, right? It's not too late for her to jump in. And in fact, she has been quietly doing fundraisers for the DNC, record-breaking fundraisers for the DNC, that essentially any money from the DNC could go into Hillary's campaign if the DNC decides to support Hillary. So it's not like, and she's already got a war chest, of course, although she did lose a lot of money after 2016. But the fact that she's still out there doing fundraisers and shit is a little shady. But yeah, we're rapidly getting down to the wire. I don't believe it's too late for her to file, though. I don't think so. You don't have to file a year before. I don't think so. Someone could set me right on that, but I don't think she's past the threshold. But I've said a million times, if Biden doesn't, bounce back, I think Hillary's okay with Biden. I think she's totally okay with Biden being the nominee. She's not okay with Warren. She's definitely not okay with Bernie. I don't think she's okay with pretty much anybody else on the stage. But if Biden winds up being the nominee, Hillary's totally cool. She'll stay in retirement, whatever. She might campaign for him, whatever. But if Biden fades and continues to fade, he's at like 15% right now, that's when you generally see Hillary perk her head up. And if there were ever going to be a time, if after this debate Biden falls even more, and I don't think he had a very good debate tonight, to be perfectly honest. He made some okay points, but he didn't look strong, and he made a lot of gaffes, and, he was Biden as usual. Boy, if there were ever a time, we're getting to it here. So I don't know about that one. Okay. RC intro, you rock. Make my $5 worth. Whoop. No, sorry. God damn it. I just read that one. I thought I had scrolled down. Alexander Ferris. I need to stop doing that. Alexander Ferris, thank you, sir. Walrus Aurelius, 1920s art, music, dancing return would be cool, though. Deplorabology, importing illegal weapons sounds more appealing. And Henry McCormick, whose super chat I can't read, so hold on a second. You are the last one, though, sir. So I will go ahead and log into Streamlabs real quick and see if I can read that, because my browser's fucking retarded. And click on that. Doody-doody-doo. And I'll see if I missed any other ones. I'm sure some of the Streamlabs ones don't like to pop up on there. Henry McCormick! I said it before, but I think it bears repeating. After 2 hours of Dems promising free crap and Orange Man bad, Kurt Cobain might have had the right idea. Okay, yeah, there were a few that I missed off Streamlabs. Richard Slammer, Razor, even though I don't have much money to give you, that might change as I'm going to start the process for a TSA job. Wish me luck. Oh, God, man. I don't know if you've watched any streams where Tactical Hobo has been on. Tactical Hobo has worked for the TSA for over a decade, I think. Yeah, I think well over a decade. I would not wish that job on my worst mortal enemy. But on the plus side, if you like to travel, you can get it. You can set it up to where they will ship you around the country. So you get to see a lot of the country on the company's dime. And if you want to ever see Alaska or something, they'll send you to Alaska. And best of all, they'll pay for your room and board. They'll give you like an allowance for gas and shit. So, it's not a bad gig. But TSA is still a fucking soul-sucking endeavor. It's no better for the people who work for it than the people who are subjected to it. Bad Rabbit, have you thought about doing a Metal Mythos 80s Bay Area scene, or maybe just overall 80s explosion that took place in the early 80s? No, because fuck the Bay Area scene. Henry McCormick, I said this during a previous stream, but I think it bears repeating. Listening to Dems promise free crap and espousing Orange Man bad for 2 hours. Oh, shit. You donated twice, man. You didn't have to do that. He asked the same question twice. That's a shame. Hypnagogic Monk. Why the fuck isn't Virginia petitioning the courts for recall of these bastards? You could recall your governor. And Ralph Northam is skating dangerously close to that. There's already been quite a bit of talk about a recall of Northam, actually. So there have been some wheels set in motion in that connection. Von Talken, thank you, sir. Soul Vizier, no matter how many letters you add to LGBTQ+, the math will always lead to HIV. Oh, God. No one in particular. Visiting Russia right now. Thought I'd butt in, I assume. Slice him to shreds, Razor Godspeed. Another Seraph. Just another friendly request, RazörForce. Head over to the RazörForce Steam page. I could definitely use some help from the more tech-savvy members. Battletech is doing some weird shit, and Paradox's best solution is a Windows reset. Godspeed, RazörForce. Somebody want to help this guy out with Battletech. I know a lot of people who watch these have played Battletech. the Harebrained Schemes game. If you can help this poor sap, please do. Bambunga, what's the only bad part about fucking 26-year-olds? There's 20 of them. Oh, dear. We heard that in a previous stream, though. Reusing material is my job. Peach T25, I recently watched Rogue One on Disney Plus and really enjoyed it. Well, that's a shame. I'm sorry about your head injury. I feel like it's a good bridge between episode 3 and 4, and overall it's really well done. Your thoughts? Best fan film I ever saw. All right, folks, I think that's pretty much and that's pretty much it. We got 2 last ones, and then we're done. Caleb Robinson, hey, Razor, what are your thoughts on Halo 1 to 3? I don't like first-person shooters, but they're not games I would, like, turn off if my friends were playing it at a party or something. Also, thanks for the Metal Mythos on Wasp. The Crimson Idol is my new favorite album to listen to. Yeah, it's a kick-ass fucking record, bro. Check out the re-recorded version, actually, because there's some cool shit thrown in with it. And actually, Blackie not only re-recorded the album, which is good because his voice still sounds good, right? It's not like most bands where they re-record something and it's shit. It actually sounds good with modern production. But he finally did what he always wanted to do. You know how on Queensryche Operation Mindcrime, they released a home video that was basically a full-length movie that was like this long-form music video that went through the whole album? He finally did that for the Crimson Idol. So there's a complete concept film, essentially, of the Crimson Idol album. So I highly recommend that. I got it myself, and it's pretty cool. Deplorabology, I'll never comply, even if I die. The Real Bambunga, Tyrion read you that joke during MechWarrior 3, LOL, it's true. Matt Mamba, since I saw Chief Wahoo in the thumbnail, should the Indians trade Lindor? What would you want in return? I think if you're gonna trade Lindor, the time is now. Personally. The poor Indians, though, they're like almost there every fucking year. What the fuck, bro? The one I'd want to return is Chief Wahoo. Fuck that shit. I won't support any organization that cucks out with their fucking name and mascot. By the way, mark my fucking words. Within 15, 20 years, they're not going to be called the Indians anymore. You can fucking quote me on it. Because the same people who pushed for them to remove Chief Wahoo are already pushing for them to rename the fucking team. And they've been pushing for it for fucking years. So that'll be next. Let's see here. One more. Mercenary X. Sorry about missing some of it. I had much luck practice, but I did stick with you all the way. And let me tell you, the military people in my class were super pissed about some of this stuff. Okay, guys. I think that is it. Thank you so much for joining me on this live stream. I'm sorry I subjected you to this procession of fucking Politburo retardation. For absolutely no one else, because it's just fucking me, I am RazörFist. God fucking speed.